right, welcome into the Thursday edition of Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Thursday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. It is finally NFL Draft Day here in Music City, here in the world of sports. Yeah, it feels good for Draft Day to finally be upon us. Mark Howard will join us at 7 o'clock, looking ahead to the Tennessee Titans. What are they going to do at 22? What are some options that are on the table for the Titans tonight going into this draft? We'll get to that coming up with Mark Howard at 7 o'clock. Predators assistant coach Todd Richards joining us at 7:30. Hal Gill at 9:30. And taking your thoughts all show long on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Joe Rexrode, how are we doing? Happy NFL Draft Day.
Yeah, happy NFL Draft Day. Huge, huge day. I do not have to watch my 10-year-old daughter try to get my teenage sons going to school on FaceTime while doing the show.
The
3
household
straight days of that.
has returned to normalcy.
Katie Rexrode is back.
There we go.
She's back in town.
Although I will say, daughter did a great job.
She did. Actually, Katie was like, she might actually, maybe we should just
done
stick
too good
with
of a
this
job.
system. You might want to stick with this system, yes. But that's nice, and also it's nice to be done with mock drafts. But we are going to have the ultimate one later in the show, though.
8 o'clock coming up.
This one will be the best.
Joe and I are picking the entire first round of the NFL draft. So you are not going to want to miss that. Make sure you're tuning in at 8 o'clock for our mock draft of the first round, which I'm sure will be 100% accurate as we move into the night. So that's what we're shooting for, 100% accuracy.
Like, in all seriousness, what would be a good number out of 32? What would be when we're done with this, like tomorrow morning?
16.
Yeah?
Maybe. Yeah,
So I was thinking like 20. If we could hit 20 out of 32, that'd be pretty strong. You think that's ridiculous?
That would be ridiculously strong.
That'd be pretty great.
Yeah. That's not crazy. Is that crazy? Think you can get 20 out of 32?
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, we know 2.
I know, but all it takes is one trade.
We kind of know 3.
Gets screwed up.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, for sure. There's some stuff there's always unpredictable stuff, but yeah. Okay.
Who
All
knows?
right, fine. If we get 50%, then we'll be happy.
We'll
Okay.
be very happy.
All right.
What about 10 or 12?
The Packers could take quarterback again, throw everything off.
That'd be awesome.
No, it would not be awesome at all.
So many. It's like Christmas morning. So many amazing things could happen.
Joe, let's quickly go to our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Our buddy Rick texting in. There goes Lazy Joe and Jinx Robby. Does last night's game prove that the Predators can't hang with the top teams in the league? No mention of Nashville dominating them the night before, saying the Predators were dominated when they were winning 4-3 with 10 minutes left in the game. I guess it's all perspective. When you have a sad, negative life, I guess you always look at the negative side of things. If I had to get up with the Roosters every day, I might be overly negative too.
Damn.
Rick's going off the top rope.
That's 4 separate texts, by the way.
That is 4 separate
I don't
texts.
even know what to do with that.
I mean, my first response would be maybe, watch the game.
Yes, apart from calling me lazy and saying we have sad, negative lives, I just want you to watch the hockey.
That's all I care about. Just watch the game.
Call me lazy, say we're pathetic. That's fine.
I've
watch the hockey.
Gone from Robby Fanley to Jinx Robby. I like Robby Fanley better.
I like Robby Fanley better than Lazy Joe, but
Yeah.
we all have our stuff. Yeah, Rick. But in all seriousness, like they did not dominate the game that they won. They won 4-1, but if you watch that game, they did not dominate that game. Hey, it was a great win.
Yeah,
great win. UC Saros dominated that game.
But again, maybe try watching the game.
Yeah.
Also, they were not up 4-3 with 10 minutes left in the game either.
Yeah, it was like really early in the third they scored, right?
So, again, watching the game probably helpful.
Accuracy, Rick. I just want you to be accurate.
There we go.
Lazy Joe isn't quite there. Couch potato Joe might be a little more. I'll try to think of some better words. You're close.
You're close.
You're in the neighborhood.
We appreciate your participation on our text line.
Why is Rick so mad at us? Why is we wait every day we come in here and there's like some nasty Rick message now.
It's okay. It'll be all right. Look, I'm just glad he can get it all out of his system on our text line.
Meanwhile, Heidi from Dixon says we're getting cookies.
Hey, I'm cool with that.
Way
to go, Heidi.
I'm into that.
So what do you think the Titans are going to do tonight? They got the number 22 overall pick. What's going to happen tonight with the Titans? Are they going edge rusher? Are they going corner? wide receiver. Elijah Moore probably still on the board at that point. What do we think happens tonight with the Tennessee Titans? It's going to be very interesting to see. We've gone through, I believe, almost every conceivable scenario at this point. It all boils down to, though, what are John Robinson and Mike Vrabel and his staff thinking when it comes to the number 22 overall pick tonight? And if you had to put a percentage on it right now, what do you think the percentage is that they trade out of 22, either up or down?
Well, I think the percentage that they trade up, I'd put about 2% on that.
I would agree.
Trade down, I'd put about 31% on that.
I like that.
Okay?
Okay.
Now, of course, again, as always, we've been saying over and over again, someone needs to want to get in there. I think if someone does, I think there's a good chance. I just don't know if someone will. So I'm going 66.66666% that they're picking where they are, 33.358% that they aren't. But I will say too, Robbie, that now that we're here on this day, we've been guessing and mock drafting and all that stuff. I really hope they trade up. This is where you get selfish, okay? This is where you get selfish. Like tomorrow's going to come fast. Got a lot of stuff to write tonight. So please trade up. Trade up to like 4 and get Kyle Pitts.
It'd be amazing.
We can get the press conference over at like 9 o'clock. Get to bed. Absolutely. If they trade down, like they trade down to like 32, I'm going to break something. So please think of the media, John Robinson, please.
Or think specifically of this radio show.
Yeah, exactly. Especially media who do early morning radio shows. But no, I think that I think it's more likely that they stick where they are. But I think that John Robinson, if he gets a good opportunity, like you said the other day, you don't trade back just to trade back. There may be a guy that they absolutely love, and if you go by the popular sentiment out there, it would be Elijah Moore. I still feel like Elijah Moore at 22 is a bit of a reach, but if that's your guy, it's your guy.
Yeah. And look, apparently people love Elijah Moore. At least that's what the noise is in this pre-draft process here. So I'm very fascinated to see what ends up happening with him. Ryan Porth, have you already ordered your Tennessee Titans Azeez Ojulari jersey at this point, or is that still on standby?
No, it's been ordered.
Okay.
Since they're changing all the number rules, it's number 13.
Okay.
So the number 13 Ojulari jersey is on its way.
Breaking that Kendall Wright jersey out of retirement.
How dare he take Kendall Wright or Cam Batson's number?
Why 13?
Because that's where he were at Georgia.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, that makes sense then. Hey, now a non-lazy person would have known that.
That's true.
Yeah, come on, couch potato.
Come on. Get with it, Joe. Let's go to our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Wayne from Spring Hill texting in. Does accuracy count players and teams or just players when we're talking about our percentage that we're hitting in the draft?
Oh, in other words, if a player goes at that spot but it's a different team.
Right.
That's a good question.
I would say the player and the team.
Yeah.
That is what you have to hit to make it 100% correct.
Okay, so let's say, we have a team picking somebody and they get them at a different spot. We get that. We get that credit because we are predicting that team to take that player.
I would say that is more accurate than saying Justin Fields is going to go number 4 to Atlanta and then somebody else trades up to get Justin Fields at number 4.
Okay.
I'd agree.
So there you go. Good question, good clarification. It'll be team and player.
We expect someone to chart this. Ben, on the text line, we're looking at you. You got to chart this. So be ready for it.
I'll chart it.
He'll chart it. He does that.
That's my job.
We need more people. Ben can chart it. Ben was charting every take that Joe had and Jared had.
This is true.
He can do it.
How's that going, by the way? I mean, it's got to be ugly for Jared by now.
No, Jared's probably winning.
Oh, boy.
Based on what?
Did you hear that?
Based on you trying to troll me in the morning?
Perhaps.
I had somebody reach out to me yesterday on Twitter and basically has developed a Skiatika shirt that they put together. Now, it's photoshopped, but the Skiatika shirt that has been put together here, pretty awesome. You got a pair of skis to begin the word, a glass of cold iced tea in the middle of it. Skiatika. A lot of awareness for sciatica the last couple of days here on the show.
Yeah, it's a thing. With all this, it may have been an embarrassing moment, but maybe this will raise sciatica awareness.
Maybe so. I hope so. Hope we can do some good here on the program.
That's pretty good. Skis and an iced tea.
Hey, it's taking the world by storm here. A lot of people really loved that clip the other day of you pronouncing Skiatika.
I mean,
We could both end up with T-shirts out of this.
We could.
Radio shows in Virginia were talking about Skiatika yesterday.
Yeah, you got to tell me about that now. Where in Virginia?
Believe it's Virginia Beach,
Okay.
where this radio show resides.
So my mom actually could hear it potentially.
Probably.
Just imagine if my mom was just like randomly, listening to sports talk radio where she lives and heard them making fun of her son.
You.
Yes, of her
Can you
baby-
believe this
her
guy
baby
Joe
boy.
Rexrode?
Joe Rexrode.
Listen to this moron from Tennessee, huh?
Joe Rexrod. Who does he think he is?
Oh, man.
So they asked for the like the audio of that?
No, they took the audio from Twitter,
Yeah.
from the video. I
mean,
got a
it
text
is-
from a host yesterday at this station saying,
Skiatika.
"Thank you for the content for today's show."
Did you tell him that I'm a Virginian
I did.
by living there twice in my life?
He didn't know what he didn't recognize the high school that you told me to tell him about.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, it's big state.
It's like an hour from him.
It's a big state.
Yeah. Okay. Hour and a half, maybe?
You know every high school in like Shelbyville, Tennessee?
Is there more than one?
I don't know.
I have a lot of ancestors buried in Shelbyville, Tennessee.
Really? Okay.
Absolutely.
All right.
I've been
Wow,
through
that
that.
just took a turn.
It did.
Well, I mean, my dad used to do the what do you call that stuff? He was super into come on.
I don't know what you're talking
Genealogy
about.
stuff.
Okay, all
Like, he
right.
used to do these massive reports, and he would go to gravesites and like take pictures of graves. I walked through it with him, and
Yeah.
a lot of ancestors there. There you go, Shelbyville.
Well, the more you know.
So someone tell me, is it more than
I don't
Shelbyville
know.
High?
I don't know that there's more than Shelbyville.
Like
High.
all
I
all
was
the
just looking
different.
for something like an hour away.
I can tell you that in Prince George County, Virginia, there is one high school.
There
It's
you go.
Prince George County High School.
There you go.
The Royals, baby.
Make sure you don't miss Nashville's best NFL draft coverage tonight and tomorrow on 102.5 The Game, presented by Founders Brewing, Apple Collision Centers, Freedom Tire Guys, Nashville's premier mobile tire company, and MTGRT.com, your live and local mortgage expert. Be sure to join us on site as 102.5 The Game. We'll be broadcasting live beginning at 6 p.m. tonight from 3rd and Home, Germantown's bar with a ballpark, and tomorrow from Boom Boss, Crab Pizza, and Tap House in East Nashville. We're going to have a lot of great coverage on the NFL Draft for you starting tonight at 6 p.m. Mark Howard will be a part of that. He joins us here on the show at 7 o'clock. TD, Teron Davenport as well. Forever Titans wide receiver Chris Sanders and Jared Stillman. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have a lot of great football talk for you tonight starting at 6 o'clock for the NFL Draft.
Also, at 3rd and Home in Germantown this evening, you can come out before 8 p.m. and register to win Predators Stars tickets for Saturday night.
It's a big one.
So, big game. You can come out. You have to be in person to register to win those tickets. Also, the Derrick Henry 2,000-yard commemorative football.
Which is awesome, by the way.
It's legit.
Very cool.
You can come out and register to win that as well. So some cool stuff going on. 3rd and Home has some of their Sunday football drink specials going on.
Yep.
So there's a lot to do tonight at 3rd and Home.
Lots to do at 3rd and Home. If you haven't checked that place out yet, it's awesome. So make sure you come out tonight for the NFL Draft. And going to be really fascinating to see what the Titans do. We'll have that covered for you all night long here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. When we come back, we'll continue the conversation on the NFL Draft, taking your thoughts on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Also introduce our poll question of the day as well. That's coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Make sure you're tuning in later on in the show as we reveal a key word for you to text into the game line for your chance to win the T-Mobile Hockey Homegate giveaway, a Dos Equis prize pack including a case of beer, dessert from Nothing But Cakes, a T-Mobile prize pack, and food provided by 312 Pizza Company in Germantown. We'll have that opportunity coming up for you a little bit later here in the show. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game, streaming live on Periscope, on YouTube, and on Twitch as well. It is NFL Draft Day, and with that in mind, let's introduce our poll question of the day at 102.5 The Game on Twitter. And today's question is this. Titans fans, which of these positions of need could you live without being addressed in the first 2 rounds of the NFL Draft? So live without being addressed in the first 2 rounds of the NFL Draft. Would it be cornerback? Would it be pass rush? Or would it be wide receiver? So far, very early in the voting process, 48% say wide receiver, 38% say pass rush, only 14% going with cornerback at this point.
People want the corner.
Yeah,
they want a corner.
Which is interesting because in the poll question the other day, the people want Elijah Moore.
That is interesting. Different voters?
Yeah, maybe so. I mean,
people changing their minds?
It's very early in the process here.
Well, listen, Titans fans, you're gonna have to live with at least 2 of those. You may not get any of those. You may get Tevin Jenkins, Oklahoma State offensive tackle.
Yes.
Come on, get excited.
What do you think the reaction is going to be if they take an offensive tackle 22 tonight? That'll be fun.
Yeah, it would not be joyous. I would not think, but their right tackle situation.
Might need to have one at some point.
It's Kendall Lamb and Tyson Brylow are competing. Dennis Kelly's gone, so it is a need after all that has happened in the last year.
Yes, it is.
By the way, so real quick, so is it Gigi Bowser? Is that what's his? Have you seen the Gigi or heard the Gigi?
Yeah.
I didn't hear the whole thing.
Yeah,
I gotta have to dive in and listen to the. Is it just one track or is it like a?
I've heard one
EP
of the Isaiah Wilson rapping career.
And what's his name? Gigi Bowser.
Gigi Bowser, right? I think. Yeah.
What I heard was really an assault on the ears. It was
not good. But let's just say there was a lot of auto-tune involved.
Is that the? Yeah, that's called auto-tune. I didn't even know that.
A lot of auto-tune involved. It was something.
I don't know why I feel like ripping on my children today so much, but my 13, like Brennan, he loves all the new rap and like all the songs have that, like it's like the fake voice thing. That's called auto-tune?
Yeah.
Okay. And it's like, this is, come on, man.
It's not good.
But his stuff is Wu-Tang Clan to this, okay?
Yes.
Again, I hold Wu-Tang Clan
in high regard.
Yeah, high regard. And it was sort of like he was just sort of whispering, right?
Yeah.
Like he was not quite sure if he should be doing this.
Yeah.
Just like he wasn't quite sure whether or not he should be playing NFL football.
Yeah, apparently so.
Yeah. So, Gigi Bowser.
Shout out.
Shout out to Gigi Bowser. I will check that out later, like in a few years maybe or so.
Let's go back to the text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Ben text in, what's up with the mocks on NFL Network that have the Titans taking a tackle or a linebacker at 22? What are they thinking?
So I can't keep up with all the mocks.
There's a lot of mocks.
I've seen some tackles. Linebacker, I'm assuming that would be like Zaven Collins. Hey, Brugler had like one of his earliest mocks had the Titans taking Zaven Collins.
Yeah.
So I will say, among the things that I got to do with the Athletic is putting together a big board to get ready for tomorrow, which is basically like, here are some players the Titans, could be looking at on Saturday.
Yep.
Right? And I put Zaven Collins on there. Now, again, that's different than first round. And the thing is, Zaven Collins, again, mock draft land, you always got to keep in mind, it's based on information, sure, but it also can be based on misinformation, and it's never exactly right. But he seems to be dropping. So, I mean, Zaven, like the idea of getting a linebacker at some point to me is not crazy.
No.
And if you loved Zaven Collins, now he's sold as a guy who he's so athletic, so versatile. He did everything for Tulsa. I know it's Tulsa, but he did everything. He was like an All-America player. He's a guy who maybe could even provide some pass rush. Now, that also reminds me of what we heard about Rashaan Evans 3 years ago. Hadn't really come true. Although they had to use him in that role last year.
My advice would be please don't trade up to get Zaven Collins if you're the
geez.
Titans. Please don't do that.
What if they trade up, like just sell the farm to get like Penei Sewell?
Really,
or even Vera
that.
Tucker from USC.
Yeah. We
That'll
should
go
come
well.
up with scenario like the most angering of Titans fans possible tonight. What could what could that be? Like trading up to get Trey Lance or something? Packers-like move.
I know of some Titans fans on the text line that would be a fan of going up and getting a quarterback.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Ben's one of them.
I mean, there are some Tannehill haters on the text line.
Oh, yeah.
And on Twitter.
Yeah. I get that. I mean, I think they're wrong, but I mean, unless your quarterback is absolutely top handful in the league, like there's some fans that are always going to be unhappy with the quarterback.
Sure.
But man, that is not your problem.
It's not your problem.
That is not your problem. You should feel great that your team has the quarterback they have.
So
for the price they have him at.
So going back to this question, which position could you live without if you're the Titans in the first couple rounds? Corner, pass rush, wide receiver. I mean, we feel like you're going to need to address all three of those maybe multiple times throughout this draft. Which position can you live without the longest? The more I do these mock drafts, and I realize, Elijah Moore could be there, and if you're the Titans and you love him, that's the way you could go. But I still think you could find some pretty good wide receivers later on in this draft. Like, if I had to answer this question, I think I'd go receiver as the position I could live without in the first 2 rounds.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, you look at, and again, like doing this big board I'm talking about, you look at everybody and it's like, man, we've talked about Amari Rodgers yesterday. That would be more on the smaller side of things, but there are plenty of slot guys that you could get later. I mean, I do I like Nico Collins.
Yep.
I really think Nico Collins, if the guy averaged 19 a catch for a so-so offense, Harbaugh's had all kinds of trouble putting together an offense in a quarterback situation. They opted out last year. He 6'4", he runs well. Like, honestly, I could see Nico Collins being a better pro than Rashad Bateman. We've talked about Josh Palmer. Man, he's there's a lot of depth. I mean, Tylan Wallace, Oklahoma State. There are a lot of good players at that position. How much of a gap is there between, like the top of the second tier and I think there's like 15 guys or so, maybe 10, 12 that aren't that far apart from each other. So that seems like a position that you could be fine going later. But again, if you think that like Elijah Moore is just the guy for your offense and he's going to make all the difference, then you do it.
Let's go to the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Joe from Maryland texting in, Rashad Bateman or Elijah Moore? Which way are we going?
I would pick Elijah Moore.
I would too.
I feel like I'm a little bit of a Rashad Bateman hater at this point, but I want twitchiness and explosiveness and speed and certainly size and a good technician. People who can play the position well sometimes get overlooked. Rashad Bateman plays it really well. He's a good route runner. He's a good player. I think he's going to be a good player in the NFL. To me, Elijah Moore brings a little bit more big play to your offense. And I just think if they can, that's the thing they really haven't had is just a straight-up speed player, on this offense. And Elijah Moore and Rondale Moore, both, and Tutu Atwell, all three. They're all slot guys. They're all small guys. They're all really fast guys.
Some smaller than others.
Right. I mean, 149 I can't wait to see where he goes.
Yeah, I can't either.
But the Moores, especially, if they got one of the Moores, I would like that a lot for their offense.
Rashad Bateman doesn't truly excite me. Like if they pick him at 22 or even trade down later in the first round and pick Bateman, I would be fine with that, but that wouldn't get me overly excited.
Bateman feels like a guy who, and look, I'm not, some NFL draft expert, but he feels like a guy that's going to be a good player at the NFL level. he's not ever going to be probably worth a first-round pick, in my opinion. It
Yeah,
just kind of feels like that guy.
Well, I mean, I think he can be like a Corey Davis-like player. You know? Something like that, which is fine.
Yeah.
He's a good player.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that at all. Like, again, I am. The more I think about Nico Collins, the more I'm enamored with him, because if you can get him as low as it looks like you might be able to, he wasn't featured. He was around a lot more talent than Bateman. Bateman was the guy in Minnesota. You know, PJ Fleck building that program. Bateman, terrific player. I mean, he really is a very good player. And you don't want to sell short being a great route runner, because that gives you space that, you know, just as well as speed gives you space, right? But, yeah, I would agree. He's not exciting.
Right. I mean, the thing that stands out about, you know, Brugler talked about this. I mean, Kuiper's talked about it as well in his pre-draft kind of process. Not much explosion, and, you know, the release needs to be worked on. You got to find a way to get off the line. Like, if they're just going to press you up the whole time in this league, you got to find a way to get off the line of scrimmage. Especially, like, in this offense. Like, you've got to win your one-on-one matchups. Now, maybe he gets that. It's not like you come in the league and that's just what you are, and you're never going to be able to win any battles in press coverage, and you can improve in that area, but that would be a concern to me about Bateman. That's why, I mean, I would give the edge to Moore.
Yeah, and, you know, when it comes to the Moores, I've been a big proponent of Rondale.
You have.
I do think that there's a little more certainty with Elijah based on what he's done. He's done more. He's been used in more ways than Rondale Moore has been used. Doesn't mean Rondale Moore can't do all that stuff, but Elijah Moore has done it, and he's, you know, Tennessee's had an all right history here recently with Ole Miss guys too, and obviously he and A.J. Brown. He was a freshman and Brown was a junior, so that's another reason. I mean, you know, if they liked each other,
yeah,
there's
hopefully so.
Yeah.
We'll continue this discussion when we come back, taking your thoughts on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Which position could you live without being addressed in the first two rounds of the draft? Cornerback, pass rush, or wide receiver? We'll talk about it next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 1025 The Game.
you're going to need to expect more of this rookie class sooner?
I think as soon as those guys can contribute, the sooner the better. And we've had guys that, maybe it's been injuries, been some dings, some bumps and bruises, and some a little bit more serious, like Jeffrey's situation where he was coming off that knee. It took him a little while to get going. But the quicker they can acclimate themselves to our program and the pro game, the better. And yeah, we want all of these guys, whether it's the first rounder, wherever they're drafted, the quicker they can contribute and help the football team, the better.
That was Titans General Manager John Robinson earlier this week discussing the importance of this draft class coming in and contributing very quickly. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Thursday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. We'll be joined by Mark Howard coming up at 7 o'clock, looking ahead to the draft for the Titans. So looking forward to that conversation coming up with him. Right now, taking your thoughts on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Which position of need could you live without being addressed in the first two rounds of the NFL draft? Would it be corner? Would it be at pass rush? Or would it be wide receiver? That is our poll question of the day at 1025 The Game on Twitter. Right now, very early in the voting process, 45% say wide receiver, 41% say pass rush, 14% going with cornerback.
Get a corner.
They like the cornerback.
Move up to get a corner. Get J.C. Horn.
Yeah, buddy. Come on.
Get it done at 7:30. Hey, text line, Ron. Oh, wait, here we go, Ron. Ron keeps texting, so I've got two here. But good morning, guys. I was going to ask you if you think there's a guy in the draft that is a must-have and we should move up and get no matter what.
I mean, in all seriousness, if the Titans are trading up, like the one guy I keep coming back to that I think, okay, that's probably the one guy the Titans could consider trading up for, like J.C. Horn. If you just love J.C. Horn and you think that he is absolutely the answer at corner, then maybe you try to trade up to grab him. But I still find that to be unlikely. Like I don't think there is a very likely scenario that they're trading up.
No, and I don't think they should. Now, if J.C. Horn unexpectedly falls from where most people think he's going to go, like they can't even trade up to where he's supposed to go. I mean, no. Some people have him going top 10. You're giving up too much to move up for one player when you have so many needs.
Yep.
And I'm sorry, Kinston, but they have so many needs. Again, it doesn't mean that they have to have stars immediately as rookies, but they have a lot of positions, a lot of depth, a lot of a lot of different guys that they need out of this draft who are going to come in and make a difference. And so, to me, trading back would be better. Getting more picks would be better. John Robinson has done a lot more trading up than trading back so far in his tenure. His counterpart Chris Ballard is a huge trader backer.
Yeah.
And by the way, might be looking to do that again if Charles Robinson is correct, and get out of there and let the Saints come up and get Caleb Farley or whoever. But I think if a guy like Waddle or Smith got close,
define close.
Well, I'm talking like if they dropped into the high teens, and it's like, man. Think of what like Jalen Waddle could do as a return guy and as a receiver. Okay, then to me,
might do it.
I might do it, but it's still got to me like anything top 15. You're not moving that high, because you got to give up too much.
What all do you think they'd have to give up? Do you think they'd have to give up next year's first to go up that high?
That would be my guess.
Yeah,
that would be my guess. Whereas if you move up 3 spots. You might be trading away your second or whatever. Maybe even like a third and a fifth. I mean, like there's different ways you can do it. But yeah, I think if you're moving 10 plus spots,
it's a lot.
Getting up, I think probably. And a lot of GMs I think are, even though like John Robinson said on the show the other day, right? He said, this would maybe be 65-70 in terms of evaluation on 100 is a normal year. A lot of GMs are like, well, I want picks next year when we have everything. We have the total combine and we have our right? So I think there is going to be – you guys have talked about it with hockey. I think there is going to be some real interest from people who are trading down to get 22 picks, 2022
Well,
picks.
then I would wonder if there are really going to be that many trades. If a lot of GMs think that way, then I wonder if a lot of teams just stay where they are.
Well, they could, but it's also like all it takes is one player to start sliding, and those eyeballs get big.
Yeah.
Like, oh, man, I really love this guy. Got to go get it.
Yeah,
It's going to happen a few times.
Right, like every GM, they have their boards, but they also have their like, best case pet players that they really like. And that's what has happened with John Robinson with some of his moves up, especially like 3 years ago. Of course, he moved up twice to get Rashaan Evans and Harold Landry.
Yep.
They've been all right.
Yeah, been okay. Let's go back to the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Ty text in. I would say pass rush strictly because they went after that more than anything else in free agency. I think cornerback is the most important, but it would be fine with a wide receiver if the defensive back wasn't there. So Ty saying pass rush, probably the position in the first 2 rounds he's most comfortable living without.
How deep is this pass rush class?
Doesn't feel like it's all that deep.
I'm not all that impressed with a lot of the prospects after the probably mid-second round.
Yeah, it's a good question. It's obviously not elite at the top like it is some years, right? And whatever it is, I mean, those guys are gone real fast because what's the hardest thing to find in this league? I mean, it's a quarterback, and it's what everybody's trying to find, but how many really great pass rushers are there in the league?
Not many.
So it's interesting because, like, you look at some of the guys in the like second, third round range. Like, I think Rashad Weaver from Pittsburgh is an intriguing player. I think he would fit the Titans well. I've seen some people pick Patrick Jones to them, but Patrick Jones, Pat Narduzzi is a guy who he's a 4-3 guy all the way. Patrick Jones is a straight up 4-3 defensive end. Like, Rashad Weaver is more of a linebacker who I think would fit this defense. But like Deo Odeyingbo, like I like him. He tore his Achilles. Like all these guys. Joseph Asai is a guy I really like a lot. I think that he would be a high ceiling raw pick. But of these guys, who are you going to take and be like, yep, next year you're going out there and making a huge difference. I don't know that anybody on this list would be like that, including Ojulari. But you would certainly, you'd love to have a 3 who you can develop into a good player. I mean, I like him a lot. I mean, I think Jalen Phillips to me is a guy we might see go like 12 tonight, and we might not see go tonight. I mean, really, I'm sure he's going to go. But when you have doctors who have told you like you need to retire.
Yeah.
I mean, that's got to be very much a red flag for teams. But
there's
a lot of guys like Gregory Rousseau.
Joe Tryon, like where does he go?
Yeah.
I've seen him all over the map.
I've seen him. Yeah, me too. I think he looks, most people think like late first, early second. If the Titans love him, that would be maybe a bit of a reach per mock draft land, but you could justify that. I mean, Rousseau is a guy who opted out, but he had 15 and a half sacks last year, Carlos Basham, I think, again, he's more of a 4-3 guy. I mean, there's a lot of good players in there. I think it would be great it seems like there's a little bit of once you get to about Rashad Weaver, about 12 guys in or so, maybe there's a little bit of a gap to the next tier. It'd be great if the Titans could get someone in that top dozen or so, which they would have to address it in the top 100. Yeah, I think they will.
But I think that's going to happen.
Yeah,
I'd be surprised if somewhere in the top 100, edge rusher or D-line, maybe both, it isn't addressed at some point along the line here. So I think that's going to happen. The question is it going to happen in the first round or the second round, or do you wait a little bit later as you go into the draft? Because remember, you do have to find a tight end at some point too along the way here as well. So it's going to be very interesting to see what sort of way John Robinson goes about handling that. When we come back, we've got some updated NFL draft betting props that have been thrown out there. Ryan Porth has them coming for you next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Thursday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. Streaming live on Periscope, YouTube, and on Twitch as well. Taking your thoughts on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. It is finally NFL Draft Day here, and with that comes some prop bets that stand out as well. Now, since November 1st last year, you can now in Tennessee take part in these prop bets as you look ahead to the NFL Draft. There are multiple platforms that are available for your use. And now the latest updated prop bets have been kind of laid out there leading into the draft tonight, including some over-unders for some players and the positions that they're drafted. By the way, make sure you stay tuned. Coming up at 8 o'clock, Robby, myself, and Joe will pick the entire first round coming up in this NFL draft. I'm sure it'll be very, very accurate. So you're going to make sure you want to stay tuned in for that.
We will get 50% or more.
Yes, we will. Yes, we will.
Right.
So without further ado, Ryan Porth, you have kind of the latest updated NFL draft betting props leading into the draft tonight, including some very, very interesting ones around certain players heading into the draft tonight.
Yeah, so I spent way too much time last night going through a lot of the latest odds for over-unders for certain players and some positional props for certain teams. So I want to start with a player that everybody's talking about with the Titans, Elijah Moore.
Okay.
His current over-under on William Hill is 27.5.
27.5. If you listen to the mock draft experts, that's an easy under.
Yeah, I would think so. That's enticing.
A lot of mock drafts having him going to the Titans at 22. And I guess the security blanket there is the Ravens at 27, who could also pick Elijah Moore.
They could. Now, remember, the Ravens have also acquired another first-round pick. So they are picking at 27 and at 31 as well after that trade with Kansas City. So that's going to be interesting, too, to see now that you've got 2 picks in the first round, if you're Baltimore so close together, how does that influence what you do in terms of the positions that you draft at each spot?
Would they try to use them to move up to get one of the top guys? Right?
You could.
Maybe. Mm-hmm.
Or maybe that's where your beloved Rondale Moore ends up going at 31.
Could be.
Yeah.
Shed a tear, Titans fans, if that's how it works out.
Yes.
Another receiver that y'all have talked about this morning, Nico Collins.
Yep.
His over-under is 85.5. The Titans pick at 85 in the third round.
Yep.
That's
very interesting.
That is very interesting. That feels specific.
Vegas has pegged the Titans at 85 as a potential landing spot for Nico Collins.
That's pretty good.
That is good.
Especially if you like it.
That's a way to pay attention. Vegas.
If I had
Vegas knows.
If I had to predict right now, I would say in the first 2 rounds, assuming the Titans don't trade, I would assume edge rusher and corner get addressed in the first 2 rounds. So then there you'd be at 85, staring down the barrel of a receiver. That's interesting.
Yeah, and he's right in that range. Again, it's like now you could go right in that range. Someone like Tutu Atwell.
Yeah, you could.
Now, another player that I would prefer the Titans to pick, Azeez Ojulari, 26.5.
Okay.
And more of the money is going to the over 26.5.
Really?
I bet you that's changed, right? I mean, apparently he's plummeting here because of this knee thing.
Yeah.
Do we really believe that knee thing?
I don't know, man.
I don't know. I mean,
this time
I don't think it's total fantasy, but
this time last week we were talking about mock drafts having Ojulari going number 11.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, it feels like an easy under, but to your point, I mean, there is some noise right now about his knee. Does that make him fall in this draft? To me, when you read that off, was it 26.5?
Mm-hmm.
First thing I thought was, go under on that one.
I would think so too. I would still think so.
Yeah.
I don't think that's just like pure fantasy, but sometimes stuff like that gets amplified a little bit, and then someone was always going to take him at 14.
Yeah. Here's one that I thought was a little low, or should I say high? Either way, Kwity Paye at 17.5.
17.5.
He's another guy that I have seen everywhere.
Yeah.
So let me just look at where Dane. Okay, Brugler's got him going 11 to the Giants. I've seen that from other people too. 11 to the Giants.
That feels really high for him.
I know, but it's one of those guys who all it takes is one, but some people are just in love with him and think that again.
I will say, there are some people that have him maybe being an option for the Titans. If Indy stays at 21, that might be a landing spot for pay.
If he's still there. If he's still there, yeah.
Now, last week when we went through some of these betting props, Jalen Phillips was, I believe, 22.5.
Yep.
He's now 18.5.
Moving up. Moving up the board.
Vegas knows something.
Yeah.
Or maybe.
Well, yeah. I mean, so I can't sit here and just totally pick off Dane's whole thing here, but he's got him going 21 to the Colts. So, but I feel like I would go under with him because I just think he's too talented, and there's somebody who's going to be intrigued and be willing to take that risk. Again, the search for edge rushing in this league. Everybody needs it. Very few teams have enough of it, and he is, I think, in terms of talent, I think he might be the best of the bunch. So I'd go under with that.
Now, for the Titans' positional needs, or let's say the exact playing position that they pick with the first drafted player, those odds have not changed. So linebacker and defensive line are still both at plus 600.
Okay.
With
now
the
remember,
favorite being
when you hear
cornerback.
linebacker, outside linebacker included in that discussion.
Correct.
Yeah, it's a big.
Don't think they're just
big
going to go
point to
draft hey, that means they're getting Zaven Collins. Maybe. Not necessarily.
It is the position as listed on NFL.com.
Right.
That is what the apps are going with.
So it hasn't moved. Still at plus
hasn't
600.
moved, and the safety position is still plus 800.
That one I don't understand. I don't understand safety being at plus 800 for the Titans' first pick. They're not picking a safety.
I don't even no one picks a safety. What's the highest? I don't even know who the highest ranked safety in this draft is. Do you know off the top of your head?
It's the
Trevon
Morig. The dude from TSU.
Yeah, Trevon Morig.
Okay. Is he going to go in the first round?
I think team we talked about a minute ago, that could be an option. Baltimore. They need a safety.
Yeah.
I think the over-under for safeties drafted in the first round is 0.5.
Yeah, I mean, it would be him.
So on the Beast, Burglar has Richie Grant from UCF and Morig from TCU as second-round grades.
Yeah.
And that's safety is a very undervalued position.
It is.
Right? I mean, every once in a while you'll have an absolute stud, but that's absolutely not a need, and also not a position that even has first-round guys. So sometimes Vegas is not right.
That's true.
So here were a couple other specific players and their over-unders that stuck out to me last night. Greg Newsome, the corner out of Northwestern. We kind of feel like the Titans would be lucky to have him on the board at 22, right?
Yep.
His over-under is 25.5.
25.5.
I was very shocked to see it be that high.
I am too.
Yeah, he's got his detractors, Newsome. Relative to some of the other guys, he's going to be interesting. I got to think he'll go in the first round, but I think that, I could see the Titans looking at some of those other, it's not quite as deep, I guess, as receiver, but there's a lot of the second, third round guys that maybe they don't think are really that much different, if at all, from a Newsome in terms of overall quality.
Yeah. Eric Stokes could be there.
Eric Stokes,
4.31 or whatever he ran. 4.35.
Stokes' over-under is 39.5.
39.5. Yeah.
There's a lot of guys.
If it was in the 40s, I would have taken the under on Stokes.
Yeah.
All right, here's one for you, Rob.
Okay.
I put a healthy amount on the Packers drafting offense.
Okay.
With their first pick. And the offense is minus 145.
Minus 145.
So either O-line or wide receiver.
Yep. I'd say if I had to to guess, they're going one of three ways with their first pick. Either O-line, because they just lost why am I blanking on his name right now? I'll think of it here in a second. But their center.
Lindsey?
Lindsey. How could I forget that? And then you've got, obviously, wide receiver. Literally every single one of their receivers after this year, they don't have a contract. All of them. So you've got to think about that at some point. And then they do need a linebacker. So I would say that's about right. And what was it, minus 145?
Minus 145.
Okay.
Another with good value is the Giants taking a linebacker with their first pick at plus 500.
Yeah.
I mean, they could go with Micah Parsons at 11, right?
Yeah.
Could?
Absolutely could.
He'll be, yeah. He could be. Some people think he's the best defensive player, all around defensive player. See, the interesting thing for the Titans on corner is, like, if they love Asante Samuel or somebody like that, or Elijah Molden, that's where, like, you got to trade down.
Yeah.
Because, like,
get some more picks, trade down. They'll still be there.
But, like, it doesn't fit with 22.
Right.
But you're not getting them at 53. There's no way.
Exactly.
So
Brandon on Twitter says, plus 6,600 on the Titans taking a quarterback. Lance or Fields do an Aaron Rodgers type slot. Could get good value there, I guess.
Give it a shot, man. You never know.
Never know.
Crazier things have happened.
That is for sure. Those were some good odds thrown out there by Ryan Porth. Some interesting odds coming up tonight on the NFL draft, including, the Greg Newsome up there at 25.5. That's very interesting to me.
Like, does Vegas know something we don't on Greg Newsome?
That's
I don't think that's crazy. I don't think that's crazy. I think he's going to go in the 20s somewhere. Like, I would not be surprised if the Titans took him if he's there at 22.
I've seen him a popular pick at like 17 and 18.
Yeah.
Or even 16 with Arizona.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting.
Do I do this again? Okay, I'll do it again. I'm sorry, Dane. This is the last one, I swear. He's got him dropping to 26. He's got the Browns taking him at 26.
All right.
So I think there's definitely some Newsome. Now sometimes all that stuff, all that noise is coming from someone who's taking him at 17.
Exactly. We'll see how that goes. Coming up tonight in the NFL draft. When we come back, we'll be joined by Mark Howard, looking ahead at the draft tonight for the Tennessee Titans. We'll do that next. This is Robby and Rexrode live from the Wholesale Link Studios, powered by RumbleOn.com here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in. Hour number 2 of Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Thursday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. Streaming live on Periscope, on YouTube, and on Twitch as well. It is NFL Draft Day finally here. And to help us talk more about that, we go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And welcome in Mark Howard, who will be co-hosting Draft Night in Nashville tonight at Third and Home, alongside with Jared Stillman, Teron Davenport, Chris Sanders as well, and Mark joins us now by phone. Mark, what's going on, man? How we doing?
Good morning, guys. It's like it's like Christmas Eve for a lot of us NFL fans. We just want to see what's in the package.
We sure do. We've been looking forward to this day for a long time. Mark, as you sit here and look at the Titans tonight at 22, I mean, there's a lot of different ways they could go. You could trade down. You could trade up if you wanted to. There's a lot of different things that could happen. As you look at the needs the Titans have, how would you handle this draft tonight in the first round if you're John Robinson? What are you doing at number 22, whether it's a specific player or a specific position that comes to mind?
Well, I think when you're at 22, you got to go with the flow. And trading down would not be the worst thing in the world. There are a few players that I would like to see them with. I think the way that the draft has gone, in the past, we've learned that it can certainly be a mystery when you get into the 20s. I think they could really help themselves at wide receiver. I think a lot of us really like Elijah Moore. He just seems like a guy, who's NFL ready. He's got a great work ethic. He's a guy that, I thought it was interesting. He was described as a big play receiver who had possession receiver numbers when he was at Ole Miss. He caught 74% of his receptions out of the slot, which is also, a neat area for the Titans. So I think he checks a lot of boxes. And then there's, of course, addressing the pass rush because their needs are real. They're very needy at tight end. They're needy, of course, at corner and wide receiver especially, and edge rusher. But the top players, the top pass rushers, as you guys I'm sure have already talked about, all have some question marks. And then if you go corner, the Titans, I think, could grab a starting corner in the first round, but Caleb Farley hasn't played in 500 days. He's had 2 procedures on his back. Newsome out of Northwestern missed a lot of time when he was there. So you got a lot of question marks with these guys.
What would you think would outrage Titans fans today, Mark?
Oh, gosh. I guess if they took another offensive lineman, and you could see, if Darisaw is still there at 22, you got to think pretty hard about that. And, he's been described as a guy who's better than Jack Conklin, who they hope, they can plug in there and he can play. You remember last year and the disaster that was Isaiah Wilson, and just wonder how that could happen to them. But, go figure. But yeah, I think offensive tackle would outrage Titans fans because you don't often get a mulligan when it comes to the draft.
Mark Howard on the line with us, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And Mark, you mentioned Elijah Moore. That's a very popular name right now connected to the Titans, but wide receiver also pretty deep in this draft as well. When you look at this secondary right now with Christian Fulton coming in his second year, obviously Malcolm Butler and Adoree Jackson no longer there. If cornerback is there, we feel like both positions at corner at wide receiver are deep. Would you be more willing, if all things are equal, to go corner first and then wait later on receiver? How would you handle that if you're John Robinson?
I agree. The pool of receivers is deeper than the pool of corners. You can find a receiver in the second or third round where they have 2 picks already. But if J.C. Horn is sitting there, and if Farley's sitting there, and you wonder how they've evaluated Asante Samuel and Tyson Campbell. Two guys who are, kind of up and down at their schools at Florida State and Georgia, respectively, because, once you get into the second and third rounds, you don't have those guys that you think you can immediately plug in and play.
So, non-Titans, Mark, what's the biggest thing that you can't wait to find out tonight?
Who the 49ers are going to take? If it's just going to be straight up Matt Jones, or if they're going to swerve a little bit and draft another quarterback, and I don't know which one they like better. If Fields ends up being the third quarterback taken, I think the jockeying for quarterbacks is fascinating. Who do the Falcons take? Do you take Pitts? I would. I don't know why there's always this immediacy bias where you feel like you absolutely positively have to take a quarterback. If you look at Atlanta's situation, Matt Ryan has a huge cap number for the next 2 years. So I don't think he's going anywhere. I think he's going to thrive under Arthur Smith. I think the Falcons get healthier. It'll be interesting to see, if they decide, to make any draft day trades. But, I could see Pitts going to them. And, a lot of people feel like, Pitts is the best player in the draft.
Mark, we've had some fans ask us about the backup quarterback position with Logan Woodside and whether or not the Titans should be comfortable going into the season with that route again. When you factor in all the different needs that this team has and that they're going to have to address in this draft, how big of a priority would a quarterback at some point along the line be, maybe to try to address that backup position if you're the Titans?
I think we've all learned that when you go later in the draft, and the Titans have the last, couple of years, with a quarterback in the late rounds, you're buying a lottery ticket. And it just doesn't seem like it ever works out. That guy will turn out to be cut or what. I mean, if they took a quarterback in the fourth round, or the third round, that would really, perk my interest. But yeah, they need to upgrade a backup quarterback. I don't think there's any question about it. But they are so needy in their need areas. I don't know if they can afford to jump out and go against the grain and take a guy who's really probably, we hope, doesn't play this year.
No, I agree. I mean, I'm totally with you. Like, if it's middle round and someone they really like, then hey, do it. The late round flyers very rarely work out. Maybe like a Trask or something. But even if they did that, is that guy going to be actually ready to come in this year and be any sort of improvement on like what you have with Woodside? I mean, I don't know. But, another position, Mark, tight end is interesting with me for the Titans because to me, they need a starter. I mean, I think Ferkser is going to be heavily involved this year, but they need an all-around tight end. Anyone of that group you really like, and where do you think they should target that?
Well, I didn't see Hunter Long play that much. He in the minds of a lot of people, is the second-rated tight end. And, I mean, there's got to be a huge difference between Pitts and Long. I saw Freiermuth play a lot at Penn State. I liked him. So, yeah, I agree with you. They absolutely have to get a tight end. What they have right now is not much. And that's what I mean. Their needs are screaming. I mean, this isn't just subtle. And John, can't afford to try to finesse, what he does at pass rusher. I mean, he's got to draft, in my mind, he's got to draft at least 2 pass rushers. And probably in the first, 4 or 5 rounds. But, you're right. He does. He needs a tight end. He needs a corner. He needs a wide receiver. So it'll be interesting to see how they prioritize and if they're able to trade down. I've seen a couple of mocks where they've been able to trade down to the back end of the first round. And I think that, and they probably would get an additional third. So that's, that looks good to me because the pass rushers, And Joe, you've written about this a lot, and a guy who really intrigues me is Kwity Paye. But can they really afford to gamble on a guy like that? I mean, everybody is so excited about this guy who really didn't put up great numbers at Michigan, but you can do so many things with him. And in the NFL today, a guy who can play inside, who can play outside, a guy you can move around, can be pretty valuable. And they can develop him into, maybe something even bigger than he was at Michigan.
It's certainly going to be interesting. As you said, there's a lot of different routes you can go. If you're the Titans, certainly a lot of need have as well. Mark Howard has been our guest here on Robby and Rexrode. You can check him out tonight on Draft Night in Nashville beginning at 6 p.m. here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. He'll be alongside Jared Stillman, Chris Sanders, and Teron Davenport as well. Mark, great stuff, man. Looking forward to your coverage tonight, and going to be very interesting to see what the Titans do tonight. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure, guys.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
Mark Howard joining us here on the program. You can check him out on our draft coverage tonight on ESPN 102.5 The Game. When we'll come back, we'll react a little bit to what Mark had to say there. Also ask the question, how worried should the Titans be about maybe Indianapolis stealing a pick of theirs at number 21? All that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. 1025 The Game is kicking off every weekend with free beer.
Free beer!
And who doesn't love free beer? Make sure you're tuning in all day on Friday for your chance to win a $25 gift card from Bavarian Beer House located at Opry Mills Mall. Another phenomenal trivia question coming your way tomorrow from Ryan Porth here for Free Beer Friday. So make sure you're tuned in for that. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 1025 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this NFL Draft Day here on ESPN 1025 The Game. Thanks to Mark Howard for joining us in the last segment. Going to be interesting. As Mark pointed out, there's so many different ways you can go. If you're the Titans here, it's going to be fascinating to see. And I agree with both of you. Like, you're going to need a tight end at some point that you feel good about coming in and starting and giving you some snaps. Mason on YouTube says, Johnny was great for us, but in 8 games last year, he had 2 or fewer catches and never had more than 448 yards in a season. It's not impossible to replace him.
Yeah.
It's not impossible. It's going to be difficult this year.
Yeah, I understand. You can point to the stats on Jonnu Smith. It's kind of like Rick earlier talking about how the Preds dominated the Florida game that they won 4-1. They didn't dominate that game.
No.
Jonnu Smith didn't have great numbers, but he's pretty good. He's a pretty talented player, and we've talked ad nauseum about how the offense changed last year when Taylor Lewan went down. They got to have, regardless, they've got to have a out here unless you get another pick, and maybe it does make sense. I don't know that, Hunter Long's another guy who I've seen in a variety of places. I think Freiermuth is kind of the favorite to be the next guy after Pitts, but it's like Pitts and then the second guy. Freiermuth, Tommy Tremble from Notre Dame, very intriguing.
Yeah.
More of the established blocker, did not have a lot of work in their offense. Also didn't have good numbers, so you could look at him just statistically like you just did with John and say, oh, he's not much of a receiver, but he's got the ability to do it. So these are guys I think you can get third roundish. Brevin Jordan from Miami may be the best receiving option after Pitts. And then, maybe you go much later. I don't know. I think they're going to certainly address it somewhere. But something, unless they add picks, is going to have to be more in the 4th, 5th area. And you get into that area, and you have a much smaller hit rate.
So how concerned, if you're John Robinson and the Titans, should you be about the pick right before you at number 21 with Indianapolis? Obviously, Chris Ballard and company, they've got a lot of options they can have there. You lose to Nico Autry to the Titans, so I think conventional wisdom would tell me that they could be going somewhere on the defensive front with their first pick if they decide to hang on at number 21, whether that's on the edge, whether that's on the defensive line. How concerned, if you're John Robinson, would you be about maybe the Colts stealing one of your picks? And if you've got your eye on a pass rusher or maybe a Christian Barmore type player as well, how concerned would you be about the Colts picking right before you at 21?
Well, I don't know that you sit here and spend time worrying about it today, but certainly it could work out. It could work out that way for the Titans or for the Colts to hurt the Titans, I guess, in that way. But that's not why you do things if you're the Colts. But it may certainly work out that way, no doubt about it.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they do. To your point, Ballard has shown not afraid to trade down. I wouldn't be surprised if that ends up happening again. Which, by the way, Charles Robinson said it on our show the other day about the New Orleans Saints. You got quote tweeted by the Rap Sheet yesterday, Ian Rappaport, saying he's hearing some similar things about the Saints. Saints look like they could be a prime candidate to move up in this draft in the first round.
Yeah, it was already just the tweet about Charles and the Saints was one thing, but then when Rappaport quote tweets it, all of Saints Nation's in my mentions crying and screaming. Some are excited about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Saints, that's been their thing, and the Colts thing has been trading back, and I think it's good to be known for trading back. It's worked out pretty well for Chris Ballard to trade back and to have more draft capital.
Let's go to our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Got a texture that says, what do you guys think about Kyle Trask as a possibility to be groomed for the future behind Tannehill?
I think that it's possible. I think Kyle Trask is a guy who is probably going in the middle rounds, a guy who was awfully good this year, was a Heisman candidate this year. A lot of people attributed that to what Dan Mullen did for him, and obviously it helps to throw to guys like Pitts and Kadarius Toney. But look, you're talking about a guy who didn't start in high school, and obviously has grown a lot.
Sure.
So maybe that's a guy who could keep growing in the NFL. I mean, you'd have to have some real strong convictions about it to not fill some of these other needs and to go there. You'd have to really, really love him. But maybe they do, or maybe someone else does. I think if they're going to go quarterback, I'd rather see them go in that range than throw away a late pick. Use that late pick on a kicker.
Yeah. Can't do that on the Pro Football Focus mock draft simulator. Maybe
Yeah,
you can in real life,
too
though.
bad. Hey, I need to read. I just want to read this from the text line because it's Alex from Montreal. So, is there a Montreal, Tennessee?
I don't think so.
He says,
There is, I've never heard of it.
Yeah, basically he just says fix the D. There's a lot of that out there. Fix the defense.
Wide receivers can wait.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Andrew from Dover texted in. What do y'all think about the fact the Titans are one of 3 teams in talks with Atlanta for Julio Jones? A.J. Brown is hoping it happens on his Twitter. That coming from Andrew in Dover.
I think that A.J. Brown does not A.J. Brown's a heck of a player and a leader and a guy in Nashville who I think is going to get a second deal and going to be a star here for a long time, and he does not deal with the Titans' finances because they don't work. They don't work at all for Julio Jones.
I think it'd be different if Jones was cut and he was out there as a free agent and you could finagle something for your cap situation, but that contract is an albatross.
It's a lot.
It's massive. And, if there's a trade, I'll be interested to see if there's any sort of deferring of the salary, but even if that's the case, the Titans are look at all they've cut, and Julio Jones is on he's on the wrong side. He's on the wrong side of his career. He's still really good. Don't get me wrong. I mean, the next couple of years with Julio Jones, if you had him healthy,
With him and A.J. Brown?
my goodness, but it absolutely does not work. So I can't go there. Jeremy K. Gover tweeted and texted us about his point that it used to be all about pass rush, and now it's like wide receiver, winning the bowl. However, what's so funny?
You all right over there?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
I'm just checking.
Yeah, is my muting working?
I mean, kind of, but my mic's still on when you do it, so you can.
Right, so you can still hear
my
it through
fault.
your mic. Yeah. Why don't you mute when I
Sorry.
mute? Why can't we do some synchronized muting?
I'm sorry.
But anyway, Gover makes the point that now it's like wide receiver winning the poll, but obviously Bud Dupree changes that. I mean, before Bud Dupree, there was no question what they were going to do, right? When we figured they were going to sign somebody on the edge, look, if they really like one of those guys and they can get an Ojulari, a Tryon, a Phillips, I think that's great, because I don't think you can address it too much, and you can't be much worse than they were last year.
There's no question about that. When we come back, we're going to be joined by Predators assistant coach Todd Richards, looking ahead to a massive game coming up for the Predators on Saturday against the Stars. We'll do that coming up next. Also, looks like there could be some breaking news in college football. Henry To'oTo'o rumored to be a lock for the Ohio State Buckeyes, according to Mike Farrell, who works for Rivals.com. So that is very interesting. We'll get more into that later in the show as well. All that coming up. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Thursday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. The Nashville Predators with a massive game coming up on Saturday against the Dallas Stars. And to help us talk more about that, we go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in Predators assistant coach Todd Richards. Todd, what's going on, man? Thanks for taking time to join us.
Oh, good morning, guys. Good to be with you.
Good to have you with us, Todd. First off, we'll start with this week already. What were your takeaways from the two games against Florida? You get a massive win on Monday, 4-1. Saros was sensational in that game. Obviously, things did not go well Tuesday night in that matchup. What did you take away from that two-game set against the Panthers?
Well, there's some good things to take away. Florida's a very good team, and you want to be playing big games at this stage of the season, and we've been fortunate enough to put ourselves in that position. So it's great to play these big games, and obviously we have another one coming up on Saturday. But Monday we played a more complete game, obviously earning the win. Goaltender was great. Special teams were very good. The second game, it looked like we didn't have the same energy. It seemed like we were a step behind them. Juice was great. I mean, that game easily, in the first period, second period could have been, they could have been up by 3, 4, 5 goals. He made some incredible saves to keep us in it and give us a chance. And coming into the third period, we just lacked the energy, and then making poor decisions. And I think a lot of that had to do with fatigue. It's been hard. It's been a grind. And, the good thing about our schedule right now is we have a little bit of a break here where we're able to maybe step away from the game a little bit and spend some time with family and those types of things and come back refreshed and get ready for a big game on Saturday.
So is that a game you just kind of flush then, Todd? As you mentioned, second day of a back-to-back, you cited energy. Obviously, Florida's really good and forces bad decisions sometimes, right, and gets teams outside themselves. But it did seem like John Hines was pretty upset in the immediate aftermath. Is there anything from that game where you say, okay, this has got to be addressed, or is it just that was a bad one, move on to the next?
At this stage, especially the way the team's been playing, I think if you, as a coach, you look for trends and different things and what's going on with your team. And, Heinze's done a really good job kind of directing this team and getting our team to play a certain way. And I think the guys have done that. And you are right. You're as coaches sometimes, or even as fans, sometimes we get caught up in, oh man, they didn't play well, and that is true. We didn't. You're going to have your ups and your downs, but the one thing you also have to understand is you are playing against another team that's trying to do the same thing you are, and they're a very good team, and they got something on the line as well as far as making the playoffs, and then playing for that top position, or at least battling for that top position, top 3 position. So they're trying to get home ice there. So it was a big game for them. But we you're disappointed after the game, but again, as coaches, you have to deal with the reality of it, and then you try to figure out what the reality was. Why did we play like that? What happened? And again, you can't get caught up in the emotions. You can't get caught up in all that. And we're going to sit down this morning and have more discussion about that game, and then start prepping and getting ready for Saturday.
Predators assistant coach Todd Richards on the line with us, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And Todd, you brought up the game Saturday. I mean, you look at the standings, it is what it is. It's a massive game coming up on Saturday for you guys, taking on the Dallas Stars, a team you're obviously very familiar with at this point. What are these next couple of days going to be like in your mind? Because it's not like you guys don't know what you're going to see in Dallas. They know what they're going to see in you. What's it like to prepare for what on the outside seems just to be a massive game coming up on Saturday when you've got a little bit of time now in between games, which you haven't had really basically all year?
Well, it's going to be nice to have a practice tomorrow.
Yeah.
We haven't really practiced, and part of that is just the routine I think we've gotten into based on the schedule and how this season has gone. Is you're really, as a coach, you have to balance what your team needs, and there are times where you need the reps in practice. You need to work on some things systematically to get your game back up to where it needs to be. But it's also monitoring the energy of the players. and it's been hard. It's been hard on not just the physical toll it takes, but also the mental and emotional toll. You know, when you're playing these big games, and we've had to scratch and claw from a ways back, so we've been playing at a high level, emotional level, you know, for a long time. And, you know, after a while, it takes a toll. So you get some games like this, and I think there's, you know, as a coach, as I said, you're trying to find that balance of practice and rest. And because of that, we haven't practiced. We've used morning skates to really work on our game if there's something we've needed to work on. But it's going to be nice to have a practice tomorrow where you can get out and maybe do a little pushing and banging with each other. You know, work on some D-zone coverage stuff and those types of things that you don't typically do in the morning of a game.
Yeah, how about I imagine some work on special teams too, Todd? Obviously, that didn't go well for the penalty kill. It's been going really well, and it seems like the power play certainly benefited from Ellie Tolvanen's return, has looked better. But what's your assessment of those two units at this point?
Well, you are right. Those are things that we have to work on, and those become very, you know, critical. You know, when you are playing in big moments, you know, it does come down to those littler, smaller moments in a game. You know, as 5-on-5 can generally cancel out, and you know, if you're undisciplined and taking penalties, and you're right, our penalty kill, we gave up 3 goals the other night, and up to that point, I've been doing a lot better. But you know, it's tough to win games. You aren't going to win too many games if you're giving up 3 power play goals. That's just too big of a hole to dig. And you know, a long time ago, when I was coaching in the minors, we did I kept track one year of all the teams that played and specialty teams and the difference. So if we scored more power play goals than the other team, you know, what was a chance that we won the game, and it was like 70%. So it gives you a really good opportunity to win a hockey game if you are winning the battle of that special teams.
Todd, obviously you've been around some really good goaltenders in your career, and they've got 2 good ones here in Nashville as well with Pecorine and UC Saros. But this run that Saros has been on where, you know, over the last 20, 21 games, he's operating around like a .945 save percentage. Just how would you describe what you've seen as of late from UC Saros, and how do you try to put into words what that's meant for your group and your team as you guys have been able to make this run here?
Well, you know, the goaltending position, I'm a football guy. I love football. You know, it's like a quarterback in football. You know, without having a good quarterback, you know, that's the position that really controls the game. You aren't going to win too many games. You really aren't. You can be good on the other side of the ball. You can have a good running back, but if there's no threat to throw or execute or do certain things, it's tough to win hockey games or football games. I'm sorry, and it's no different in hockey. That is the key position. And you know what both of those guys have done, the goaltending position. You know, a lot of credit to Ben Vanderklok, who works with the goalies, is you know, their play, the goaltenders play, and because Juice has been playing here of late, has really given our team the confidence to win. And it takes that. You know, when your goaltender starts making these saves, you're like, okay, and he's bailing you out. Next thing you know, you score a couple goals, you get a power play goal, and you end up winning games. That's what starts the confidence. And as far as Juice and his play, he's been playing. You look at those numbers; that's elite numbers. Those are the best of the best that put up numbers like that, and how they're playing. So he's done that. He's given our team confidence. You know, it starts with your key players. You know, playing at the level that they can play at, that really can give the rest of the team confidence in playing and going out and winning. And it's funny when you get on wins and you start winning, and you know, now Juice, their shots come in, and even on difficult saves, you know, he made, I don't know how many great saves he made last game, but you know, when a goalie gets into this rhythm and he starts playing like this, now as plays come in, you know, as a coach, you're expecting him to make these great saves, which is a little bit unrealistic because you just can't do that. But he's done that over the past probably 2 months or so, whatever it's been, and playing at this high level.
Todd, I want to give you an opportunity to break some news on this show. Are you guys getting Forsberg back Saturday?
You know what? I don't know. And you know what? I would love to give you the news that he is, but I truly don't know. Obviously a great player. Be a great. Whenever we get him back, will be a great boost for our team. Just the way he plays the game and the elements that he can bring with his talent that he has, and not just that. It's just his presence in the room. He's a well-liked teammate. And then just having him back around the guys would be a great lift for the team. But I truly don't know. He's getting close. If it's not Saturday, obviously the way that we're playing now, you play, Saturday, then we kind of play every other day. I think until the end of the year coming up. So we're hoping it's Saturday, but I honestly I don't know.
Todd Richards, Predators assistant coach, has been our guest here on Robby and Rexrode. Todd, great stuff. Appreciate you taking time to join us this morning, and good luck in a huge game coming up for the Predators on Saturday against the Stars.
All right, good talking with you guys.
Good talking with you as well. Todd Richards, Predators assistant coach, joining us here on the program. When we come back, we'll react a little bit to what Todd had to say there. Also get into some college football rumors as well about some possible college football playoff expansion. That coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game, streaming live on Periscope, on YouTube, and on Twitch as well. Going to have our mock draft coming up at 8 o'clock. Joe and I will pick the entire first round for the National Football League coming up to begin the 8 o'clock hour. So make sure you don't miss that. Won't even have to watch the draft tonight. It's going to go on exactly as how we predicted. Isn't that right, Joe?
I mean, it's going to be really – we might miss
pretty
a couple.
close.
We might miss a couple.
Just make sure you tune in for that coming up at 8 o'clock. Got some picks coming your way. I think I've got the odd number teams. You've got the even number teams in this draft. So looking forward to that coming up to begin the 8 o'clock hour. Thanks to Predators assistant coach Todd Richards for joining us in the last segment. What do you think of that there at the end? Forsberg maybe in there on Saturday. Todd Richards doesn't know yet at this point, but it does sound like he's getting close. My guess, and this is purely a guess, I'm not reporting anything. This is my gut feeling. If he's close, my gut tells me he's probably in there on Saturday against Dallas. It's just me. Maybe I'm wrong. That's my guess.
I would tend to agree with you, and I would tend to think that Philip Forsberg himself, even if he's not at 100, if he's at 80-something or whatever he is going to be pushing real hard to be in that lineup Saturday night.
Yep. I mean, it's a massive game. You need number 9 back in there, and if it happens, just think about what that could do for the power play with Eeli Tolvanen, Philip Forsberg back on the same unit. I think that's pretty tempting if that happens.
Oh, yeah. And just, the power play and just having him out there as a threat, how long has it been?
Oh, it's been
a while
at this point. Yeah, it's been
a
long
like 5-week range here?
Yeah.
5-week range?
It was mid to late March.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a long time since they've had
Are we sure that
double threat out there.
Are we sure that, that it's getting rid of Forsberg has not been the key for the Preds going this run?
Fairly sure.
Yeah.
that's been a guy they'd like to have back in the lineup. So we'll see what happens on that front. Hal Gill coming up at 9:30 as well to look at the Predators taking on the Dallas Stars. Joe, there is some momentum and some conversation happening around the college football playoff of maybe expanding to 12 teams. Now, we've talked about going from 4 to 6 or maybe 4 to 8. I don't know that 4 to 12 has really ever crossed my mind all that seriously, but there does seem to be some momentum for 12 teams to expand to the college football playoff. Number one, what do you think of this? Do you think that could be too much if college football goes from 4 teams in the playoff to 12 teams in the playoff? And if it is 12 teams, does that make the sport better? Does that improve the quality of the sport, which right now is basically, hey, it's going to be like some variation of Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, and throw in like a Notre Dame or an LSU?
Yeah, well, first of all, it's really interesting, this story, and credit to my coworkers Andy Staples and Stuart Mandel. Got some good sourcing on this, on the discussions. First of all, I'll tell you my opinion. It has changed. I have been a staunch 4-team guy. I believed in it. I think it's good for the regular season. I think expanding to. I've never liked auto bids because you can have that 7-5 team that wins a weak division to then shock someone in a championship game and they're in a playoff.
Yep.
That said, I've got the same fatigue I think everybody else does. 28 bids have been given out, and 20 of them have gone to Bama, Clemson, Ohio State, or Oklahoma. And so there's a lot at play here. One is just geographically, like the Pac-12 ratings have really suffered. They have not had a team since 16 in the thing.
Yep.
So geographically, the whole sport is not being involved. And let's face it, the playoff dominates the discussion. It's amazing to me that you go from BCS, which I thought was good. I mean, it wasn't perfect, but it was better than the old bowl system where this team has to play this team and then we vote on who wins the national championship. The BCS was an improvement. But, it's amazing how you go from 2 to 4 and it seems so different.
Yeah.
But when you expand it just that much, that's all anybody ever talks about. And there's – I just think auto champions would make sense, even though you're going to have some flawed years with that. But if you go big enough, then you'll still get the team that gets shocked in its championship game, like in the SEC, still gets in. So they're talking, look, you could go up to 6 or 8, but then in 10 years, is this going to be going on again? Like, go big if you're going to go. So they're talking about 6, 8, 10, 12, and 16. But 12, according to a source here in this piece, is something that really has some interest. This way you would get a group of 5 team. You would get your champions or your Power 5, so there's 6, but then you'd have 6 at-larges. I mean, no one who would have any remote chance of winning a national championship would be left out. You'd have more bowl games with players who aren't opting out. And look, yes, you're still going to have a lot of years where Alabama or Clemson just trucks whoever they're playing, but they already are doing that with the 4.
Yeah.
So to me, that's not a deterrent. It's already happening. At least have like a good whatever the seeding would be, 3-6 game. That might be great, And as far as the bowls on this, look, there are going to be people who are worried about the bowl system. The bowls are still going to exist. I mean, they've already been relegated to, the lower tier, mid-tier bowls have already been relegated to what they are. I mean, it's a reward for these teams. It's one more chance to watch your team play. Like, the whole bowl thing that was the big pushback against the playoff, I think we've moved past that.
I'm interested to see how this would work. I mean, I'm assuming if 12 teams is the route you'd end up going, I mean, the way I would handle it is, all right, your top 4 seeds, they get a bye, and then you just handle it from that point over, 5 taking on 12, and just go that way. I'm interested in that. What I don't want to see happen is the regular season mean less to a certain degree. Like, I think that's part of what makes college football so fun is the regular season. Every game is so important. Now, I'm also not convinced that going to 12 games automatically just removes all meaning from the regular season. Like, I think there are ways to go about it. I don't know that I'd go to 16. I think 12 is probably as high as I'm willing to go just because, to your point, any team that has a legitimate chance to win a national championship, if you're not in the top 12, I really don't have much time for you. Like, you don't need to be in a playoff discussion if you're not in the top 12. So I think this is a good balance. You can get some group of 5 teams in there. Maybe you'll have some times where a group of 5 teams can pull off the upset and get into that later round. I still think when this is all said and done, it's probably, at least while Nick Saban's still there and while Dabo Swinney's still there, it's still going to be a lot of Clemson, a lot of Alabama, a lot of Ohio State, and that's fine. I mean, you got to go and beat those teams if you want that to change. I would be concerned about if I'm a college football fan, does this take away from a regular season, which I think it's the most relevant and most important regular season in all of sports anywhere.
Yeah, and I think there's pluses and minuses with that. So a great example, and I got to give credit to my friend Michael Rosenberg, who wrote about this at the time. Michigan, Ohio State had Harbaugh's best team. I think it was his second team. They had a great game at Columbus, and Ohio State won, and it was basically a playoff play-in game.
Yep.
Right? Now, under an expanded playoff system, that game, which is obviously a big rivalry game anyway, but that game doesn't. I mean, those teams are both going to be in, right? But let's also take the Pac-12 game that could get you to the championship game. That means you have a shot still at the playoff versus you're already ruled out as a conference, and
right.
you guys can have your little championship game, and it doesn't mean anything. None of you are getting in this thing anyway. Like, those games do mean more under this system. I also would hope with the expanded system, knowing you have an auto bid, I would hope that this would encourage teams to schedule better games. If you can go out and lose a couple tough non-league games and know you're still in the playoffs by winning your league, why wouldn't you want to do that? I mean, the regular season, you're right, it is the best and most relevant. It also has about 4 or 5 games that are absolute garbage that you're asking people to pay to watch. And then we can get in all the other stuff about, funding group of 5 programs and what happens if they don't get these games. I mean, there's a lot of the economics that's tied to it, but I think fans, for what they're being asked to pay, if you have the possibility of more good games, I like that.
I like it too, and it is interesting. Like, I've always just assumed that this would be a gradual process and you'd go from like 4 to 6 or maybe 4 to 8. The fact that there, I think, is serious consideration going from 4 all the way to 12, that's interesting to me. I kind of like it.
Yeah, now we'll see if that happens.
Yeah.
And, of course, the contract runs through 25-26.
Yep.
But there is, as Staples and Mandel reported here, 2023 would make sense. It's the beginning of the last 3-year rotation, so it could happen as quickly as 2 years from this fall.
Going to be very interesting to see what happens on that front. I think expansion to some degree is probably inevitable at this point, where I know that Bill Hancock and the people in charge have totally dismissed that the last few years, but I think we're getting to a point now where that's going to happen at some point. The question is, how different is it going to look? How big are they going to expand as they continue to move forward here with those discussions? We'll keep you updated on that as more information becomes available. Pro Golf coming to Nashville this May with the Simmons Bank Open. Text the keyword golf now to 615-737-1025 for a chance to win a weekend pass for 4 to enjoy the event in style, including food and drinks, plus a Predators gift pack, including a polo shirt, golf balls, and umbrella. Text golf now to 615-737-1025 and enter for your chance to win. When we come back, it is time for our official mock draft. Joe Rexrode and myself going to select the entire first round in the NFL draft. We'll do that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode, live from the Wholesaling Studios, powered by RumbleOn.com, here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in. Hour number 3 of Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Thursday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. It is NFL Draft Day here on the program, and with that in mind, we're going to begin our official mock draft. We're going to make every single pick in the first round coming up, 1 through 32. We're going to do that this hour here on the program, and it's going to be accurate, let me tell you.
I really thought y'all would go with every pick of all 7 rounds.
I mean, we could.
That would have been bold.
We can make that happen.
We'll keep going if you want us to.
Just do the whole thing.
This may be so amazing we can't stop.
We could lead right into 6 o'clock tonight. Just go from now.
It would
until
probably
then.
take that long to go through all 7 rounds.
Probably would at that point. So without further ado, here's how we're going to do this. I have got the odd numbered picks. Joe Rexrode has the even numbered picks here in the draft. So I will begin.
And it's a no trade draft.
No trade draft. So we're not making any trades here. We're just going straight chalk as it is right now. We're going to start with number 1. With the number 1 pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Trevor Lawrence, quarterback from Clemson. Do we think there's any sort of controversy here whatsoever?
Have some guts.
I mean, it is Urban Meyer.
Yeah, I mean, he could go so many different ways here.
He could. I have taken Trevor Lawrence with the first pick with Jacksonville. Joe Rexrode, number 2.
With the number 2 pick in the 2021 NFL. There we go.
Yes.
The number 2 pick in the 2021 NFL Draft. The New York Jets select the future Hall of Famer, possibly greatest quarterback ever per Chris Sims, Zach Wilson, quarterback from BYU.
Zach Wilson, the combo of Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers, going number 2 overall, according to Chris Sims, to the New York Jets.
Now, a little bit of Ken O'Brien mixed in
Chris
there.
Sims did have him going number 1 in his mock draft. I will point that out.
Chris Sims also had Justin Fields going number 32.
Yes.
Let's see if we can emulate Chris Sims.
Now on to number 3. The San Francisco 49ers. Many people believe this is where the draft truly begins tonight. San Francisco trading up to the number 3 spot, looking to take a quarterback. I think there's been too much smoke here to ignore it. I'm going with Mac Jones, quarterback out of Alabama. He will be selected at number 3 overall by the San Francisco 49ers. I don't think you move up and trade into that spot without knowing exactly who you're taking and who you're going after. I think San Francisco ends up with Mac Jones at number 3.
Good luck with that.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
San Francisco.
Thank you. Number 4.
With the number 4 pick.
This one's tough.
This is what, see, the 3rd pick is where it starts because there's some intrigue, but I think they've known, and I think it is. I think you're right. But with the 4th pick, the Atlanta Falcons take Kyle Pitts, tight end from Florida, and very much am I intrigued by the idea of taking Justin Fields and allowing him to be groomed behind Matt Ryan, but I think we're talking about a potentially generational tight end here in Kyle Pitts, and we know that Arthur Smith likes tight ends.
And very well could be the best player in the draft. Kyle Pitts, I think at Atlanta, it's going to be tempting to do a lot of things. Maybe they trade down, but Kyle Pitts being there, I'd have a hard time passing that up if I'm Arthur Smith and the Falcons. At number 5. The Cincinnati Bengals. Now, this is very tough to me because I think there's 2 different ways you can go here if you're the Bengals. You have a playmaker on the board in Jamar Chase that has great familiarity with your quarterback. They were a dynamic duo in college. But also, you got to make sure your quarterback survives this year, which the Bengals did not do last year at all. With that in mind, I would be so tempted to go Jamar Chase here. But I think the smart thing to do if you're the Bengals, and what I think they ultimately will do, is drafting Penei Sewell, tackle out of Oregon. I think you have to make sure that your quarterback stays upright. So I'm going.
You think they're going to do that, Cincinnati?
No.
I do.
No, Mike Brown is going to demand Jamar Chase.
I'm just telling you.
I think that they should
do.
I think they should do what you just said. I don't think they will.
Okay.
But we'll see. You just made things interesting for your next pick.
I sure did.
The most wonderful franchise in pro sports.
Sure did. At number 6.
At number 6. This is kind of getting hard. The Miami Dolphins select Jalen Waddle from Alabama.
Really? Wow.
Everybody's talking about Jalen Waddle going down in the draft and blah, blah, blah. The Dolphins, great example of how everybody can talk about something and mock someone, but all it takes is one team. And I think the Dolphins covet Kyle Pitts, and the Dolphins will probably try tonight to get Kyle Pitts. But short of that, they're going to take Jalen Waddle.
So the Alabama connection lives on. Tua and Jalen Waddle.
Over Jamar Chase.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. That's right. Jamar Chase is available. See, I've already screwed up my draft. I can't go back, can I?
No, you can't.
Dang it!
So with that in mind, the Detroit Lions at number 7 selecting Jamar Chase, wide receiver out of LSU. Give me Jamar Chase off the board.
I want
Detroit.
Skia Tika, and then I quit drafting.
That could, yes.
I had you taking Jamar Chase.
I know, but I didn't do it.
And then you said you didn't take him, and then I still had you taking him in my mind.
There we go. I've got the Lions, the mighty Lions, taking Jamar Chase at wide receiver.
Yeah, the Lions would never be so lucky. This will not break this way for them. Let me ask you this. Had I taken Jamar Chase like I should have for the Dolphins, what would you have done with the Lions?
I was deciding between like Justin Fields, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith, and also like some random offensive tackle.
So basically, I have succeeded in helping the Lions
yes, you have.
become great, restore the roar.
That's right. At number 8, Joe Rexrode.
Oh, maybe I should look at some of the previous picks. Gosh, this one's tough too. At number 8, the Carolina Panthers. The Carolina Panthers are very interesting. The Carolina Panthers have moved, of course, Teddy B to Denver.
Big Sam Darnold believers.
Which makes Denver interesting, too. At number 8, the Carolina Panthers take Patrick Surtain II, cornerback out of Alabama.
I like that. I think that is certainly a possibility. Surtain going to Carolina at number 8. At number 9. At number 9, the Denver Broncos select Trey Lance, quarterback out of North Dakota State. I believe Trey Lance will be there at that time. I know there is some talk about maybe Trey Lance going number 3 to San Francisco. I don't think that happens. I think he ends up in Denver. I know they just got Teddy Bridgewater, but you draft your long-term quarterback, Trey Lance, at number 9.
Yeah, it's interesting. That move, so they got Locke, and they've got Bridgewater, and they've got and you still haven't taken a quarterback. Certainly, I think they could do it.
I don't think they like Locke.
Yeah.
I bet that would result in a trade of Locke to somebody who is needing a quarterback.
Or somebody trading up to number 9. But we can't do that in this draft. That's right. Number 10.
Well, at number 10, the Dallas Cowboys, I'm tempted to think are going to do some kind of splashy thing just because Jerry Jones gets his hands all in everything. And, Najee Harris, come on. But I'm going to go with what they should do, which is take J.C. Horn, cornerback from South Carolina.
I think that makes a lot of sense. J.C. Horn off the board at number 10 to Dallas. At number 11, the New York Giants are on the clock. There's a lot of different ways they could go here with their pick. But I think when Devontae Smith slides down to number 11, he's too good to pass up. Give me the New York Giants selecting Devontae Smith, wide receiver, out of Alabama at number 11 with their pick. At number 12.
Man. The Eagles. And Devontae's not there. You are throwing curveballs at me.
I know. And you also have Nick Sirianni, like halfway in charge of making decisions here. That could be interesting. Maybe he's playing rock, paper, scissors to see who will draft.
Golly, yeah, exactly. You know what? I'm gonna reach here for someone who is all over the board. The Philadelphia Eagles with the number 12 pick take Kwity Paye, edge from Michigan.
I like it. Kwity Paye going off the board at number 12. We've seen him mocked at like number 11. We've seen him at 17. I've seen him at 23. I've seen him all over the place.
And now you've seen him at 12.
Now I've seen him at 12 with the Philadelphia Eagles. At number 13, the L.A. Chargers. I mean, to me, this is very similar to Cincinnati. You've got to keep your franchise quarterback upright. Give me Rashawn Slater, tackle. I think that's a pretty easy decision for L.A. at number 13. Number 14.
In our collective quest to be accurate, I think you just got us a W. I think you got us a W there. My goodness. See, I'm sitting here looking at Justin Fields and saying, I've been screaming the entire time. You know, Justin Fields is way too good to plummet, but here he is on this board.
I know.
Plummeting. The Minnesota Vikings with this draft board. And this is where now it's also, you got to keep track of, like, who is gone that. I mean, I think that, boy, you know, they need offensive line help for sure. But you know what? I'm going to do another edge rush reach here and like a little bit of a run on it.
Okay.
I'm going to go with the Minnesota Vikings with the number 14 pick. Take Jalen Phillips, Miami.
Phillips. I like it. I think that's certainly possible. The talent at that point could become very difficult to ignore. Number 15. At number 15, Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots. I think the slide for Justin Fields ends. Justin Fields off the board. They need a quarterback. I know they have Cam Newton. That's not going to get it done. Justin Fields selected by the New England Patriots at number 15. Number 16.
See, my question on that real fast is, are they trading for Jimmy G?
I don't know.
Is that
the reports out
reality?
of San Francisco said we had a report this morning that says the possibility that Jimmy G gets traded is, quote, remote. So take that for what it's worth.
Okay. And a meteor could hit the earth.
Yeah, I mean, we couldn't may not be here.
As Kyle Shanahan has pointed out. All right. At number 16, and this is going to end this segment.
Yes.
Probably need to take a break here, shouldn't we? At number 16, the Arizona Cardinals select. I'm going to go Zaven Collins.
Zaven Collins off the board at number 16 to the Arizona Cardinals.
Another guy some people see plummeting.
That's right.
But it's a big need of theirs, and he's the best guy at that spot.
So we've got 16 players off the board. We'll do picks 17 through 32 coming up next in our first round NFL mock draft. That's next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this NFL draft morning here on Robby and Rexrode. We have made our selections 1 through 16 in the first round of the draft, 17 through 32 coming up now here on the program. Ryan Porth, a quick recap of picks 1 through 16 made by myself and Joe Rexrode.
So at number 1, Jacksonville, Trevor Lawrence. Number 2, the Jets taking Zach Wilson. Number 3, Sam Fran going with Mac Jones. Number 4, Atlanta, tight end Kyle Pitts. Robby at number 5 with the Bengals going with Penei Sewell. At number 6, an interesting twist. Joe with the Dolphins takes Jalen Waddle over Jamar Chase.
Interesting is one word for it. Stupid is another.
Which then leaves Jamar Chase for Robby to take with the Lions at number 7. Patrick Surtain, the second, going to Carolina at 8. Trey Lance going to Denver at 9. J.C. Horn, the corner from South Carolina, to Dallas at 10. The Giants at 11 taking Devontae Smith. Philly at 12 taking Kwity Paye. The Chargers at 13 going with Rashawn Slater. 14, Minnesota taking Jalen Phillips out of Miami. 15, New England stopping the run for Justin Fields, the quarterback. And 16, Arizona, Joe took outside linebacker Zaven Collins.
Inside linebacker.
Yes.
Well, he's both. He can do both.
Yeah, but I consider him an inside. Also, I consider him a mistake because I should have taken who you're about to take now. Yay! So that's 2. It's a good thing that we're really on the same team
Yeah,
here.
we are.
You're kicking my butt otherwise.
So we are starting with number 17, the Las Vegas Raiders on the clock. Now, in fairness, never really know what John Gruden and company are going to do, but I think this one pretty easy. Give me linebacker Micah Parsons at number 17 for the Las Vegas Raiders. At number 18.
Can I trade Micah Parsons for Zaven Collins?
Maybe so.
At 18, the Miami Dolphins.
Yes, their second pick of the first round.
Select. We are going to have a Bama reunion in Miami. Najee Harris from Alabama.
Yes, buddy. Running back from Alabama. So you've got them going with Jalen Waddle and then Najee Harris, reuniting that Alabama offense down there on South Beach.
It's like Nick Saban is coaching the Dolphins
it
again.
It is. It's like it's all over again. I like it. At
He'd
number
much
19.
rather have this team.
Yes, he would. At number 19, the Washington football team on the clock at number 19. I think there's a few different ways they could go here. Give me linebacker Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah at number 19. I think he is obviously won the Dick Butkus Award, linebacker of the year in college football. I think he's off the board at number 19 to the Washington football team. At number 20.
I like that. At number 20, how are the Bears going to screw this draft up?
It's going to be amazing.
I believe that the Bears are going to... Well, here's what I'm going to do for the Bears. The Bears at number 20 select Christian Darrisaw, offensive tackle from Virginia Tech.
It's a good one.
Just go with an offensive lineman when all else fails.
That's a good one. They need an offensive lineman for sure. Darrisaw, if he's available there for the Bears, I think that would be a great pick. At number 21, the Indianapolis Colts are on the clock. I think Christian Barmore is there at number 21. I think Christian Barmore is where the Colts go at number 21. You can move him around on the line. They've lost to Nico Autry. Give me Christian Barmore out of Alabama with the number 21 overall pick to the Indianapolis Colts. What do you think of that?
I like it. I like it for them.
At number 22. Here we go. Joe Rexrode on the clock
pressure here
for the Tennessee Titans.
Do you need a reminder of who's left on the board?
Wow.
Is Jamar Chase still there?
Could be.
I mean, there are 3 guys right now that
I know.
That I'm really, really tempted to go with. But you know what? 2 of those guys are at positions that I feel good about moving forward, and I feel better about moving forward than I feel about this position that I'm taking. With the 22nd selection in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Tennessee Titans select Azeez Ojulari, edge from Georgia.
Ojulari off the board at number 22 for the Tennessee Titans. Ryan Porth very happy with that selection in the back. The Ojulari jersey has been ordered. Number 23.
It's already in the mail.
I might have the Ojulari jersey on at the draft party tonight.
You might. Number 23. The New York Jets on the clock at number 23, getting a pick from Seattle. Give me Elijah Vera Tucker, guard, in this draft. I mean, you've already gotten your quarterback in Zach Wilson. I think Vera Tucker will be on the board there. Give me Elijah Vera Tucker at number 23 in the draft.
Not very sexy, but
it's what they need.
But needed, yes.
At number 24.
The Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yes.
This is a tough one. They got a few different needs, but the Pittsburgh Steelers select Tevin Jenkins, offensive tackle from Oklahoma State.
I like that. Offensive tackle off the board. I've seen at least one mock draft having Tevin Jenkins going to the Tennessee Titans.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, there's been a few.
There's been a few. The Tevin Jenkins off the board at number 24 to the Pittsburgh Steelers. At number 25. The Jacksonville Jaguars at number 25 select Gregory Rousseau out of Miami. 15 sacks a couple years ago. I think Gregory Rousseau added to the mix there with the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Very interesting. I thought you would take the position that I'm going to take now.
At number 26.
At 26. At 26, the Cleveland Browns select Greg Newsome, cornerback from Northwestern.
Yes. I'm very interested to see where he goes. I said the over-under 25.5 was interesting to me. You got him right, slightly over.
There you
at
go.
26. There for the Cleveland Browns.
Vegas knows. Vegas knows.
Yeah. Number 27. At number 27, give me Elijah Moore going to the Baltimore Ravens. I think that is a big need for the Ravens. They need a wide receiver. Give me Elijah Moore at number 27 for the Ravens. Now, that's going to make a lot of Titans fans very unhappy.
I was going to say, how many Titans fans are hearing that and have a little tear running down their cheek as they could have had him?
At number 28.
At number 28, a team that certainly may be moving up. But guess what? They didn't have to, because the New Orleans Saints select Caleb Farley, cornerback from Virginia Tech. The plummet for Farley is over.
Caleb Farley making it to 28 here in this draft. The New Orleans Saints selecting him with their first-round pick. At number 29. There's a lot of different ways my beloved Green Bay Packers could go here at number 29.
Your heart is bursting
My heart is bursting right now because I want a receiver very badly, but I also know the Green Bay Packers, and they're not going to do that. Give me Landon Dickerson out of Alabama. Center, you've just lost Corey Linsley in the offseason, a big part of your offensive line. Landon Dickerson off the board at number 29 to the Green Bay Packers. He will replace Corey Linsley at the center position with Aaron Rodgers. So that means Rashad Bateman, Terrace Marshall, still on the table.
Will Aaron Rodgers be happy with this pick?
I don't know that he'll be happy with anything moving forward until that contract gets addressed, but we'll see. At number 30.
With the 30th pick, the Buffalo Bills help the offense a bit and select Travis Etienne, running back from Clemson.
Ooh. That is interesting. I mean, that's one part of Buffalo's offense from last year that I think was very underwhelming. Travis Etienne going off the board at number 30 to the Buffalo Bills. At number 32, this is going to be interesting because the Ravens in my draft at 27 take Elijah Moore. Or excuse me, 31. Yeah, sorry, misspoke there. 31, the Baltimore Ravens. Give me Trevon Moehrig, safety, at number 31 for the Baltimore Ravens. Maybe a little bit high for him, but you're at the end of the first round at that point anyway. They definitely need some help at the safety position. Give me Trevon Moehrig from TCU going number 31 to the Baltimore Ravens. Joe Rexrode, the final pick of the first round, belonging to the Tampa Bay Fighting Tom Brady's at number 32. Who do you select?
A safety makes it into the first round. Mm-hmm. With the 32nd pick. My goodness, what do the Bucs really need here? I'm kind of struggling here. I mean, The Bucks have everything, and they've got a guy who motivates everyone to be better.
They do.
I'm going to go with linebacker Jamin Davis from Kentucky.
Jamin Davis from Kentucky.
And I did say that correctly.
You did.
Right?
Yes.
Now they've got they got linebackers, but he's a heck of a player, and that's a nice spot to get him. The rich get richer.
That's right. Tampa Bay.
Wait till Brady motivates him. He's twice the player he already
amazing.
is.
So a heck of a linebacking core in Tampa Bay. Jamin Davis closing out the first round. That is picks 1 through 32 that we've made here on the program. When we come back, we'll revisit those picks. How accurate do we think we'll be? How crazy could we be? All that coming up next. Get your reaction as well on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. That's next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 1025 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Thursday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. Streaming live on Periscope, on YouTube, and on Twitch as well. Recapping our 1 through 32 selections of the first round of the NFL Draft. Joe Rexrode and myself have made those selections in our official mock draft, and we've got some interesting ones on here. By the way, so as we kind of go through this list here, you had the Titans taking Azeez Ojulari at number 22. I had Barmore going 21 to the Colts. Obviously, the top three at the quarterback position, I think, going the way most people expect, with Lawrence Wilson and then Mac Jones at number 3 to the San Francisco 49ers. Is there anybody you feel like that we have snubbed here in the first round? And one name comes to mind immediately. No Rashad Bateman in the first round.
It's the Rashad Hateman show.
Yeah,
we have just been hating on Rashad Bateman today. I'm sorry, Rashad. I mean, it's draft day. It's a big day for him. He'll probably go in the first round tonight. But yeah, he didn't make it. Some of these teams that could have taken receivers went elsewhere in this. Speaking of snubbed, thank you, Porth, for making sure to point out Waddle over Chase there. I'm going to have to try to explain this away other than I forgot that Chase was on the board after 4 picks. But you know what? I think Jalen Waddle's going to be a better player than him. So there you go.
Do you really?
No, but I'm hitching my train to Jalen Waddle. I think honestly, it wouldn't. I think Jamar Chase is definitely the best receiver in this draft. But if you told me right now Jalen Waddle will have a better career than Jamar Chase, I'm not stunned out of my mind.
Floored by it.
I think any of those 3 guys at the top, in the right situation, with health, with luck, could be great. And they all may be great. But any of the 3, I don't think you're really going wrong.
What do you think about Justin Fields sliding down in this draft to number 15 to the Patriots?
Well, and we got a text on the text line from Sam, and he's right. He's like, what am I missing on Fields? Starting to get Trubisky over Watson vibes. Look, I don't disagree. I love Justin Fields. I mean, but if this goes this way, that the other 3 go before him, and, of course, you took Trey Lance for the Broncos at 9, you got to look at QB need.
Well, I'm also, I'm not doing this the way that I would draft it. I'm doing this the way I think that they will draft it.
Yeah, right. I mean, we're doing what we think's going to happen. I mean, look,
yeah.
I think
I'd have Justin Fields at number 3 at quarterback.
The most amazing thing tonight would be the Niners were going to take Fields all along, and they just shocked the world
been
tonight.
Blowing smoke up everybody, yeah.
Yeah, which happens. But, look, I don't disagree. And I think Justin Fields is – someone's going to get someone with a very high ceiling. Honestly, I think Atlanta – you could make a strong case for Atlanta to do it, to take him and have the successor to Matt Ryan and have the luxury of that red shirt year that no one seems to get anymore. Patrick Mahomes seemed to benefit from it. So I'd love to see that happen, but that's just the way we saw it breaking down.
I'm interested to see, and I think the team that stands out to me is at number 10 with the Cowboys. As you mentioned, they always want to make a splash, and I think J.C. Horn makes a lot of sense there. You had J.C. Horn going at number 10 in the Cowboys, and we didn't do trades in this draft, but a trade candidate to me, we've heard forever that the Patriots are shopping Stephon Gilmore. Him ending up in Dallas would make a lot of sense to me, and the Patriots moving up in the draft to go grab a quarterback, I'm very interested to see if something like that could happen with the Cowboys.
Can they afford that?
They've got it. I'm just telling you, I've seen all sorts of mock drafts that are talking about it on NFL Network a minute ago, how wouldn't be surprised if Gilmore ends up with the Cowboys. I don't know how they could afford it, because my goodness, they're paying a lot of money to people, but who knows?
That's a good point here too from Sam. And in the Fields discussion, if he does fall like that, what about Chicago moving up?
Yeah.
And righting the wrong from a few years ago.
You got Andy Dalton. What do you need to move up for?
That is true. They do have Andy Dalton. Who they still have? And they have Foles too. They have Dalton and Foles.
Yeah, they got Dalton and Foles.
Oh, what
do
a
you
combo!
Need? What more do you need?
Two-headed monster. Should run the single wing with those two.
I'm interested to see the running backs, because you've got 2 running backs going in the first round here. Najee Harris out of Alabama going 18 to Miami. Buffalo at 30 taking Travis Etienne out of Clemson. I'm interested to see if both are off the board in the first round. I think there's a good chance they will be. A team that stands out to me, and I know you had Tevin Jenkins taking him at 24, but like if Najee Harris is still on the board at 24 for Pittsburgh, I think there's a good chance they take it. I mean, you just lost James Conner. I think he would be a pretty good fit there in that offense.
No doubt. Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's for the. I would assume one of the two things for Pittsburgh. No, they obviously always address their defense, but that would be my expectation. And, Buffalo, if they were able to get an ATN where they are, I think they'd be excited about it, and that'd be a nice addition to that offense.
So, Joe, when this selection came around for the Titans at 22, it kind of broke down the exact way I hope it would, and hoped it would for you in this decision-making process. Azeez Ojulari, Elijah Moore, Greg Newsome, all still available at 22 in this draft.
And Caleb Farley.
You went with Ojulari. Why did you choose him over the other three? And do you think if all things are equal, just based on the depth at all these other positions, if all those guys are available, that's the route the Titans and John Robinson should go?
Yeah. Now, again, when you say what a team should do, I mean, look, we've spent weeks talking about these guys. They've spent so much time studying every twitch on film. I mean, doing all the interviews, so they know who they like better. But just in terms of availability, where the Titans are at 53, they can still get very good receivers there. They can still get very good corners there, and that continues on into the third round. Now, they may move around, but as the picks are, as they stand today, they can still get really good quality and players who can come in and help them at those positions later. At edge, I think it runs out fast. I think at edge, there's also, of course, in this range, like a Joe Tryon is right there. That's a guy that you could have looked at that spot. But I think once you get past the first tier, and the tier may not be high, it may not be the elite tier, but the top tier, then I think you got a pretty big gap. So if you have a chance to grab one of those guys there, I think you take it. And just I think you can have a more well-rounded draft that way. I mean, Rousseau was gone already, right? There's also Jason Owe from Penn State, Tryon. Then you get into like the Joseph Asai territory. Look, if they could get him at 53, if I knew I could get him at 53, draft him there, maybe I would have gone another route.
Yeah.
But I don't know that I can get him at 53. So I just think you've got to get a young player on a rookie deal at that position to develop, as you have with Landry. He's developed into a nice player, a starter. Get another player like that, and then you'll have depth. And if you go with 3 outside linebackers this fall, it's 3 guys you feel pretty good about.
It is, and that's a far cry from what you had this time a year ago heading into the season at that position. Coach Seth Luttrell on Twitter says, if we take an edge rusher over a cornerback, we deserve a full, swift kick in the butt. I don't care if it's Surtain, Horn, or Farley. Horn is my favorite, but the point stands. We signed Bud Dupree this offseason. We have not fixed the defensive backfield.
See, I don't understand the anger over just position. Like, you have to take into account who we're talking about and then what else you can do in the draft. So, I mean, if you're just going to say, we got to take a corner. We have to take a corner. I think you're screwing yourself. And I don't think good GMs don't do that. So I understand if you think that those guys, Seth, look, you're not getting Surtain, you're not getting Horn. Let's drop them out of here. You're not getting them.
No.
Okay? But like Farley or Newsome, if you think they're that much better than the guys that are available coming up, well, then that's different. From what I've been able to gather here, I don't think there's that big of a gap. I think there's a lot of good corners that you can get. So now you've improved. You're going to take a corner. You're going to take a corner high in this draft. If John Robinson doesn't do that, I'll wear my We're Vibin' Robby shirt for like a month straight and never wash it.
There you go.
Okay?
You heard it here.
That's the first thing that came to mind. I'm waiting for that to come in the mail, by the way. They're going to take a corner high, but you can help yourself at both spots by doing this.
Yeah, I think so too. It's going to be really interesting. I was hoping that scenario would play out where Newsome, Ojulari, and Elijah Moore all on the board for the Titans at 22. I think there's at least a decent chance that could happen tonight for the Titans. Very fascinated to see if it does happen. what the Titans end up deciding to do at number 22. Do they trade back? A lot of decisions on the table for John Robinson and the Titans. We'll continue to the discussion on the draft when we come back. Todd McShay has released his final mock draft. We'll get to that. An interesting selection for the Titans in McShay's final mock draft. Also, some interesting reports this week of draft week as well. Which are true? Which do we think are not? All that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Don't miss the Cure for Our Friends Cystic Fibrosis Golf Tournament May the 15th at 12 Stones Golf Course in Goodlettsville. Some of the teams include retired Titans football players who will be hanging around after the tournament for the after party. Cure for Our Friends Golf Tournament still has room for a few more teams and a need for silent auction items and sponsors. More information can be found at cureforourfriends.org. Thank you to Dad's Towing, Mitchell Motors, and Nashville Wrecker Services for being the tournament sponsors for the 2021 Cure for Our Friends Cystic Fibrosis Golf Tournament. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Thursday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. Going to have Mike Golick Jr. from ESPN Radio joining us to begin the 9 o'clock hour. So looking forward to that conversation with him. Looking ahead to the NFL draft tonight. Joe, Todd McShay has released his final mock draft from ESPN, and some interesting things in this draft. Number one, he's got Elijah Moore going number 21 overall to the Indianapolis Colts. So for all you Titans fans who love Elijah Moore, I had him going to Baltimore at 27, and McShay's got him going to the Colts at 21. So I don't know if you could have hand-selected two worse spots if you're a Titans fan for him to go in terms of how you'd feel about Elijah Moore.
One way or another, the Colts are going to stick it to the Titans tonight.
To the Titans. But also in this final mock draft scenario by McShay, he has the Titans trading back in the first round. The Buffalo Bills jumping up to number 22 to select Travis Etienne at running back, and the Titans going back to 30 in the first round, where McShay has them picking Caleb Farley at number 30. So we talked about the slide for Caleb Farley, and he made it to number 28 in our mock draft. He's got Caleb Farley sliding to number 30, and the New Orleans Saints selecting Kadarius Toney, wide receiver, at number 28. What do you think of that?
Well, I don't hate it. I mean, I like any sort of drop back for the Titans and get one of their guys and add another pick, that can fill another need. I think it's a good thing. Farley in particular, it's scary. It's high risk, high reward. Certainly something John Robinson has not been afraid to do. Although he has not had a guy with sciatica before,
No,
so
has not.
when you have sciatica issues, that's a different deal.
It's hard to overcome. I don't know that you'll ever live that one down. That was great.
May as well embrace
That
it.
was one of the great moments in the history of this show.
I'm gonna change my in the illustrious decades-long history.
Yes.
I'm gonna change my name legally to Sciatica.
Sciatica. Wonder whether they'll be selected in this draft. Ryan Porth, it's always interesting when draft week comes around. You've got teams playing games. We talked about this with John Robinson the other day here on the show. Some misinformation being put out there by some teams, kind of playing some mind games leading into the draft. What are some draft reports this week that we've seen that are maybe a little bit questionable in nature? What are some that we believe are true? There's a bunch of different things kind of being floated out there with some of these prospects right now.
That is true. So want to take a couple minutes here to play a little short game of truth or myth.
All right.
For some of these draft reports that have come out this weekend. In the spirit of Todd McShay's final mock draft, he has Trey Lance going number 3 to San Francisco and not Mac Jones.
Okay.
So there have been reports this week of San Francisco is spending these final days before the draft trying to decide between Mac Jones or Trey Lance at number 3. Do you feel like that's truth or myth?
I think that's a total myth. I don't think you move up to number 3 without having a pretty good idea of where you're going. I think you move up to number 3 with a specific person in mind. So I don't buy that here we are, 24 hours yesterday before the draft, and San Francisco is still in some room somewhere going, oh, God, who are we going to take, Mac Jones or Trey Lance? I don't buy that for a second. I think they know exactly who they're going to take. I think that's a myth.
I sure as hell hope it's a myth for the Niners' sake.
Yes.
Because that's ridiculous. Well, there's some quarterbacks. Let's get there, and then we'll talk about it. I think that's got to be a myth.
All right. McShay also came out earlier this week and said that he hasn't talked to any teams that did not have Elijah Moore as the number 4 receiver on their board. Do you feel like that's truth or myth?
I'm sure it's true that he's probably been told that. I think that's a myth coming from some other people. You're telling me that all the teams you've talked to, not one of them have Rashad Bateman as number 4 receiver in this? Not nobody?
Or Toney?
Nobody has Kadarius Toney at number 4. That's all Elijah Moore? I don't believe that. I think it's a myth. Now, I like Elijah Moore. I think he's going to be pretty good. He would probably be the number 4 guy to me. But you can't tell me that every team feels that way.
Okay, so let me make sure what are we talking about here? Because are you saying Todd McShay lied?
No. I'm saying I'm sure he's been told that. Do teams actually feel that way?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's okay, was it 9 teams? Was it 15 teams? So are you saying truth or myth? He's the 4th best receiver for every team?
No, that teams. Well, yeah, sure.
Well, then that's myth. Yeah, I'm sure that's not true. But I'm sure. I believe Todd McShay. I believe.
Yeah, I'm not saying Todd McShay's lying. I'm just saying, even if some teams have told them that, do they really believe that, or is that a little bit of gamesmanship?
Well, right. So I'm sure with at least a couple of them, they lied. But I'm sure a lot of them that's really what they had.
Yeah.
So it's I guess it's myth.
Okay.
So we're 2 for 2 on the myths so far.
All right. So
Skepticism.
earlier this hour, Joe Rexrode took Aziz Ojulari with the 22nd overall pick in our mock draft, the official mock draft, where you guys will get 50% of the picks correct.
Correct.
There has been, all of a sudden, out of the blue in the last week, this knee injury, these knee issues that Aziz Ojulari has. And it first really surfaced in the Peter King report earlier this week in his mock draft, where he just kind of weaved that in there with I think, the Jets pick of Gregory Rousseau at 23. So are you buying that there is some sort of knee injury that is causing teams to think twice about Aziz Ojulari? Is that truth or myth?
You want to start on this one?
I'll say truth, because if it originates with Peter King, I think he's pretty good at sussing out who's BSing during this time period, who isn't, and the fact that it impacted him to move Ojulari down out of his first-round mock. I don't think Peter King's a guy who's just going to hear that from one team and say, and overreact. So I think there's truth to it. Now, does that mean that, I'm still, if he's fallen to the Titans, I mean, you have to rely on your medical information, right? I'm not saying I think it's true that Aziz Ojulari is somewhat untouchable or a bust waiting to happen because of it, but I think there's truth to it.
I'm sure there's probably truth to it. My question would be what sort of knee injury are we talking about that's affecting your slide out of the first round? Is it because he may not be available for training camp? What are we talking about here? I mean, you're approaching a draft, hopefully, with not only this year in mind, but the future in mind as well. So, what is a knee injury that he could have right now that you're that scared about moving forward? Even if it was a torn ACL. I mean, we talked about it yesterday. That's not the same thing as it used to be. So, I hear this knee injury. I'm like, okay, well, what kind of a knee injury could he possibly have where you're that scared about it moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, obviously he has had an ACL repair.
Sure.
Sometimes that's a thing. Sometimes those things are degenerative and it's constant lingering issues. Seems like Clowney's kind of dealing with a knee that keeps acting up. Obviously, we saw it happen last year. So you're right. Just on its face, an ACL tear that's been repaired happens all the time. But maybe I'm assuming there's some kind of information about Ojulari recently, struggling his workouts or being limited or whatever, and it's enough to get out. Could it be total misinformation? It could be, but I would doubt it. But to your point there, this is where you want your medical people involved. You want every bit of information you can, and maybe in a year like this, maybe it's enough to bump him down a couple places that might have taken him, and now he's sitting there for you.
Also, why is this just now coming out days before the draft? Why weren't there more of these concerns weeks ago?
Yeah, well, it could have been a recent setback.
Could be.
And it could just be that this is when Peter King decided to do his comb through the league piece, right?
Right.
And it could be that it's a team trying to throw smoke signals. It could be a combination.
Could be. Ryan Port, do we have any more?
No, that's it.
That's it. So a lot of interesting kind of rumors out there. There's always something this time of year where a player slides that you don't expect to slide, or a player gets taken way before you expect them to get taken. I'm sure we'll see that at least a couple of times tonight in this draft as well. Going to be very interesting to see what happens. And to help us talk more about that, we'll be joined by Mike Golick Jr. from ESPN Radio to begin the 9 o'clock hour. That's coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode, live from the Wholesaling Studios, powered by RumbleOn.com here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in. Final hour of Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Thursday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. Streaming live on Periscope, on YouTube, and on Twitch as well. The NFL Draft getting underway tonight. The first round taking place. And to help us talk more about that, we go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in our good friend Mike Golick Jr. from ESPN Radio. Mike, what's going on, brother? How we doing?
Not too much, guys. Just glad it's finally here. We've had every rumor in the world. The 49ers kind of made our day and then ruined our month by trading up to 3 and sparking all this quarterback debate. So I'm just excited to see picks come off the board tonight.
I think you speak for all of us in that regard, my friend. So you brought it up, the 49ers at number 3. A lot of people saying that's where the draft truly begins, with Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson expected to be the first 2 picks in the draft. Do you think that there's actually a decision that San Francisco is trying to make here, or have they known this whole time what direction they're going to go at quarterback at number 3?
I have a feeling they've ultimately known. I think Kyle Shanahan, it seems the love affair with Mac Jones is a real thing. Now, maybe there was some understanding that, all right, they probably had other quarterback plans this offseason. I think that they might have been, a team that, and I have no, reporting on this or anything, but it's just a hunch that this could have been a team that was thinking more about Deshaun Watson seriously at some point this offseason before all the legal issues took him off the table. And so when they made this trade up, it was with an understanding, all right, we probably have a guy we really like, but we've got a time now, we've got a month to kind of make sure, all right, have we done all of the homework that we need to on these guys, get a chance to talk to them in person, since that's been at such a premium this year. We remember that during the season and the post-draft or the postseason process leading up to the draft, there have been so few instances for these teams to get in person with these prospects. And so kicking the tires on them the way they have for maybe players like Justin Fields, and maybe the front office like more, maybe the rest of the scouting department like more before we ultimately find our way home. I think it seems like all roads point to Mac Jones at 3.
So where does the road point to for Jimmy Garoppolo?
You know what? That's a good question. I would guess that's going to be decided after the weekend, depending on if New England gets into the quarterback game. Like, if New England has Justin Fields or someone fall out of the top 10 and into the early teens, I think you could see them move up and take a swing. But if not, and they come out of draft weekend and say, all right, we know we've got Cam on the roster, but San Francisco is going to be looking to get Jimmy off the books. We can probably get him back here at a little bit of a discount, which is the Patriot way, to let a guy walk and get paid, or to send a guy away to get paid, and then to bring him back on cheaper than he was getting anywhere else would be a way for them to go. I think if I had to call it right now, though, I could see Jimmy Garoppolo starting the season with the 49ers there, potentially being the starter early on as kind of a bridge program, the way we've seen in the past, Alex Smith, Tyrod Taylor, something like that.
Mike Golick Jr. on the line with us, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And, Mike, obviously, the big 3 wide receivers, Jalen Waddle, Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith, we know, or at least we think we know, what they're going to be at the NFL level and the playmakers that they can be. But wide receiver, everybody talks about how deep it is in this draft. Who are the guys that you like the most behind those guys? We've heard Elijah Moore rumored to the Titans here at 22, Rashad Bateman on the table as well, Kadarius Toney out of Florida. Who are the guys you like the most outside of those big 3 at wide receiver?
Yeah, you just said 2 of the names, Rashad Bateman and Elijah Moore. I just think, especially now, and I've seen people say this, I think it's an irresponsible cop to compare anyone to Tyreek Hill and what he's able to do. The guy's just different. He's off in his own category. But if we talk about in the modern NFL, having these sort of jack-of-all-trades, gadget players, guys you can use around as a move guy, give carries to out of the backfield, Elijah is a fascinating look at that. Lane Kiffin, we know the video game offense that he's running at Ole Miss. We know Elijah's a little bit undersized, but explosive when you get the ball in his hands, can make incredible cuts at full speed. I think he's fantastic. And then Rashad Bateman, we know that last year was kind of an interesting roller coaster ride for him, opting out, then opting back in, and then opting out again. But every time I turn on the tape, I see big, I see fast, and I see a guy who is making great run after the catch plays that helped elevate that Minnesota offense a ton in 2019 when they had their great season. And so I like both your guys. I mean, it's a flavor of ice cream thing. It's Are you looking for a bigger receiver? Would you like a slot guy like Elijah who you can use in a couple of different roles? But I think those two guys will be the next ones off the board once we get past this upper crust.
Mike, what do you think of the top of the edge class here? Obviously, no dominant guy. Whenever there's a guy like that, he goes very, very early. Some good players, some questions about all of them. How do you assess that group?
Yeah, it's complicated, right? I think that if it weren't for the injury worries surrounding Jalen Phillips out of Miami, and we know, his history with concussions that unfortunately, almost cost him his career when he was at UCLA before heading to Miami and having the production that he did. He looks the part most of any edge rusher in this class. Greg Rousseau, who's his teammate at Miami, who opted out for this season, could certainly be in that vein. But I think Jalen, in addition to the production, there was a little bit more consistency technically from him on the edge. But that being said, I think all of those questions surrounding those guys from an injury standpoint or from an overall fit standpoint, Kwity Paye probably becomes the one that comes first off the board, just because I think NFL teams are addicted to ability that I can mold. And you had a 250-pound member of the 4x100 relay when he was in high school, played all over the line at Michigan this last year. It's super flexible, super strong, like all of these things that don't have a ton of polish. There wasn't a ton of production, but a lack of production never stopped NFL teams from looking at edge talent and saying maybe we can make something out of this.
Mike Golick Jr. from ESPN Radio on the line with us, driven by WilsonCountyHonda.com. And Mike, the Titans, obviously, when you get rid of Adoree Jackson and Malcolm Butler, there's a pretty glaring need at cornerback as well. You wouldn't expect guys like Patrick Surtain or J.C. Horn to be available, but Caleb Farley, an interesting name. The injury history, the back concerns there, I think certainly something you have to take into account. But the talent on the field, pretty obvious. If you're a team like the Titans or maybe the Saints that have been rumored to kind of move up and have interest in Caleb Farley, how concerned would you be about those back surgeries that he's had, and how do you kind of balance that with the player that we've seen on tape on the field?
Yeah, I think this year, that's such a complicated evaluation because we didn't have the normal combine process. There was the rechecks, but it's still a situation where you've heard from a number of different teams and personnel involved that the medical evaluations are going to be an incomplete at best. Listen, as someone whose younger brother had a microdiscectomy, played with a lot of guys that had that surgery, it's a bit concerning, but at the same time, it's not something that can't be overcome. I think Tyler Eifert was a teammate of mine that had back surgery akin to that, and that was well before he went on to have breakout seasons with the Bengals. Certainly, the career sample's been incomplete since then, but you get the idea. Top-end production is not something that escapes you after this back surgery. And I think with Caleb, there's so much to like besides that especially in this class, I mean, outside of that top-flight group of corners, once you probably get past Greg Newsome, who could be the fourth corner off the board in this conversation, it's going to be a place where I don't think you want to be left out of that, especially if you're a team like the Titans, if you're a team like the Saints that's looking to make sure you get a bona fide from this class.
Mike, if you're Atlanta tonight and the top three, go as you expect, what do you do?
I would probably take Kyle Pitts and Prosper. That seems like what I've landed on. I said it's the best of both worlds because Atlanta's going to be going through a bunch of transition. They've talked about trading Julio Jones potentially, or at least taking calls on that. Most of the fan base seems to want to be done with Matt Ryan, but they moved that money around to help free up cap space this year and kind of indicated, we know we're going to have to deal with this contract for at least the next couple of years. I think June of 22 is when they can really even think about getting Matt Ryan off the books. Do you really want a rookie quarterback waiting around that long? I don't know if you do. And so I feel like the nice middle ground to strike is you bring in a weapon like Kyle Pitts. That way, if Julio's there or not, you've got another space alien. You've still got him there to pair with Calvin Ridley in an offense that's going to be heavy play action like we've seen from Arthur Smith in Tennessee, and allow him to go get those reps with a veteran quarterback that loves to feed the tight end. And then if you want to move to a rookie quarterback in the next couple of drafts for Atlanta, you've got a player who then would have plenty of great reps under his belt, who would be a great security blanket for a rookie quarterback. So I would take Kyle Pitts and Prosper. I wouldn't be surprised if Atlanta traded back and tried to finagle some things, though, to see if they could get themselves even more draft capital, since they got a lot of holes to fill, especially defensively.
Yeah, certainly going to be hard to pass up a guy like Kyle Pitts. Mike Golick Jr. from ESPN Radio has been our guest here on Robby and Rexrode. Mike, great stuff, man. Appreciate you taking time to join us this morning, and I think we're all looking forward to some actual picks being made tonight in this draft.
I was going to say, man, let's just hear the chimes and get it on. It's time.
That's right, absolutely.
Finally.
Thanks, Mike. We appreciate it, man. Yeah, there we go,
Beautiful.
Porth.
Music.
Well done. Mike Golick Jr., our guest here on Robby and Rexrode. When we come back, we'll react a little bit of what Golick had to say there. Also, get into the best and worst case scenarios for the Tennessee Titans tonight in the first round. We'll do that next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Thursday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. The NFL Draft taking place tonight, and make sure you don't miss Nashville's best NFL Draft coverage tonight and tomorrow on 102.5 The Game, presented by Founders Brewing, Apple Collision Centers, FreedomTireGuys.com, Nashville's premier mobile tire company, and MTGRT.com, your live and local mortgage expert. Be sure to join us on site as 102.5 The Game will be broadcasting live beginning at 6 p.m. tonight from 3rd and Home, Germantown's Bar with a Ballpark, and tomorrow from Boom Boss Craft Pizza and Tap House in East Nashville. I know Ryan Porth very much looking forward to getting out to 3rd and Home tonight. The broadcast will include Mark Howard, Jared Stillman, Teron Davenport, and Forever Titans wide receiver Chris Sanders as well. So going to be a fun time for some draft coverage tonight.
And they'll have some drink specials, some of the same specials that they have on Sundays. There will be some Preds Stars tickets that you can register to win before 8 p.m.
That's a big one.
You can register to win a pretty darn cool football, the Derrick Henry 2,000-yard season commemorative football.
That football's great.
So
very nice.
lot of stuff going on at 3rd and Home.
Make sure you're joining us for that beginning at 6 p.m. tonight for draft coverage here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Right now, taking your thoughts on the draft on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Chris in Nashville text in, I'm against trading back. The NFL is all about talent. When you drop back, the talent level drops as well. What do you think about that? Holding on 22?
Dropping back can be a great strategy. You got to have both quantity and quality. But I mean, the big question on that whole thing is, can you get a like player, a similar player, a few spots back? I mean, we can go through any draft you want to go through, and I'll find you a whole bunch of second and third round picks that have been way better than first round picks in that draft. And in fact, if you want to just look at John Robinson's history of his first round picks and his second round picks and his third round picks, he's absolutely done better in the second and third than he has in the first. So if it was science, if it wasn't an art, then I'd agree with you, but it's not science. It is an art, and that's where if you give yourself more opportunities to screw up, you give yourself more margin for error, I think in the long run you're better off.
Let's go back to the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Heidi from Dixon texting in, if we make one draft trade, how likely would a second trade be?
I wrote this week about the old down up.
Yeah, buddy.
That certainly is possible. And again, think about the first draft for John Robinson. He traded the number 1 overall to the Rams for the future Hall of Famer, especially now that he's with the Lions, Jared Goff.
Yes.
But that got the Titans at 15. Then they saw who they wanted. They moved up to 8 to get Conklin. So, yes, I do think that's possible. The Titans can get down if someone wants to get into 22, and then you get in the second round, it's like we got to get, fill in the blank, a corner, a receiver, Joseph Asai from Texas, whoever. Okay, now take that pick, move back up to get him. I think that's certainly possible, Heidi.
So what are the best and worst case scenarios for the Titans tonight? Let's start with the worst case. So, look, nobody knew exactly how it was going to play out last year when you drafted Isaiah Wilson in the first round. That was about as worst case as it gets, as it ended up happening.
But we didn't know.
We didn't know it at the time.
It seemed just fine at the time.
Heading into this draft, just based on the options that could be on the table for the Titans, what do you think the worst case scenario is for the Titans tonight? What do you think generates the harshest reaction from Titans fans tonight?
So worst case scenario is that they pick crappy players, and we won't know. Everything is graded right after the draft, but
sure,
no one has a clue. So we're talking worst case of how things would unfold tonight. To me, worst case is one thing is that they don't have an opportunity to trade down, because to me, if they can, I think that would be beneficial. It would be a departure from what John Robinson has normally done. I think it's a great year for that to happen. So part of the worst case scenario is that isn't available.
No trade partner.
No trade partner. No one wants to get into 22, or you don't have a good enough deal. And then you're stuck at 22, and you see Pay and Phillips and Ojulari and all those guys go, and Barmore all go, and you see Newsome. And obviously, Surtain and Horn we expect, but you see Newsome go. You see Farley go. You see Elijah Moore go. And you're sitting there. Is that likely to happen?
No.
I wouldn't think so. I wouldn't think all those people are going before 21, but we're talking about worst case scenario. And then you're sitting there, and your big board might say Tevin Jenkins. You know, I mean, you may. And if you asked about Titans, I mean, that to me would be the one thing that would get people furious. I know some people, like, again, we had Coach Seth Luttrell say, oh, you can't draft an edge, you got to draft a corner. Like, you can't just look at it like by position, right? But I don't think people would be upset unless they take something other than a corner, edge, or receiver.
Or, a Barmore type, too. Yeah, for sure.
That's true. A Barmore would be a very polarizing pick.
Yeah.
I think a lot of fans would not like that, and I understand that, but I kind of do like that, actually.
I would, too. I think that would be interesting. But to your point, like, if they end up with, a Tevin Jenkins in the draft in the first round, it's not going to go very well. Now, he could turn out to be a really good player, and that could end up being a great pick. But the immediate reaction based on the needs this Titans team has, it's not going to go over well with Titans fans.
Right. A year after you drafted an offensive tackle who did nothing. Yeah, and just because of the other needs. But the worst case to me is that you are these guys who seem to fit you. And I know, again, we think, these guys that you want, we think that because of the mock drafts.
Right.
But really the way to say it is these guys that appear to fit you, that appear to fit your needs, be players that would fit your system, be players that would fit in well with the team, if they're all gone and you can't get out of 22.
The best case scenario for the Titans to me is very similar to what played out in our mock draft, and that is you've got, I think, players you feel good about at every position of need available to you at 22. And you've got trade partners as well. To me, that's the best case scenario for the Titans. So, like in our mock draft that we did earlier on the show, at 22, Elijah Moore was available for the Titans, Greg Newsome was available for the Titans, and Azeez Ojulari was available for the Titans as well. I don't know if it's going to play out that way, but to me, that's a pretty good scenario for John Robinson and the Titans. If you get stuck at 22, if I'm the GM, I probably feel good about drafting one of those three guys. But if you can have all those guys available, and you've got some trade partners that you can acquire more picks from behind you, I still think trading down may end up being the way I'd go if I'm the Titans.
Yeah, my best case scenario is that you do trade down.
Yeah.
You do trade down, and you do still get one of those guys wherever you go. So you go back to 28, go back to 30, go back to whatever it is. You trade down, you add a pick in the top 100 to give you a total of 5 in the top 100, and then you still get an Elijah Moore or an Ojulari, a Newsome. It's, whoever they prefer based on their big board. And, there's some great – I've been reading up about the draft. Like, you got, like, the Ravens, the classic story. You got the horizontal board, you got the vertical board. And sometimes they clash, right? Yep. So the vertical board is straight up like best player available. Horizontal is how, your needs.
Yep.
Ozzie Newsome, great anecdote. They had Ed Reed. They had Lito Shepherd. Their need was a corner. They absolutely needed a corner, and they basically had the same grade, but they had Reed just ahead of Lito Shepherd in the big board. They didn't need a safety. They needed a corner. He took Ed Reed, one of the greatest players of all time.
Worked out pretty well.
And I'm sure there's plenty of stories where it went the other way, but it's an example of stick to your guns. If you believe in your evaluation skills, then stick to that, and in the long haul, you should be better off.
Go back to our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Titans in Truth texting in. The worst case scenario is not to trade down and you pick either Kwity Paye or Trevor Mooring, the safety out of TCU. I don't think that's going to happen. But you look at the odds. The safety's at like plus 800. I think it's like second or third on the list for the Titans.
Imagine the Titans go like safety, running back, quarterback in their first 3 picks.
It'd be amazing.
I mean, that would be actually like that would be kind of amazingly awesome. Yes. Just the complete meltdown that would ensue.
Christopher on Periscope asked, so do the Titans draft for need or do they draft best available in round 1? With the vertical horizontal board talk.
Well, again, so let's say you have those two, okay, and Najee Harris is there. Well,
probably not drafted.
You don't go with the vertical board on that. You can't. So I mean you have to keep both in mind. And not only that, like as John Robinson was talking, you have to keep in mind each position group and how deep it is and where you are and where you think you can get player X, player Y, player Z. It's certainly not – I mean, there's a lot of needs. So it's not like Titans are just like, what's our position of most need? Let's draft that. That would be disastrous to do it that way.
Let's go back to the text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Adam in Portland text in, if you trade down from 22 to 30 and you still get Caleb Farley and a second-round pick, I think that's the ideal situation. That could happen.
Well, if you know that his Skiatika is good, yes.
Yes.
I mean, I don't hate them taking Farley. You may end up with just a great value pick there.
Yeah.
But there's a reason he's falling.
Yeah. It's the Skiatika. All the other back stuff going on.
Skiatika, scary Tika.
Let's go. When we come back, we'll be joined by Hal Gill, Predators radio analyst, looking ahead to a big matchup for the Predators coming up on Saturday against the Dallas Stars. That coming up next. And speaking of the Nashville Predators, 102.5 The Game and T-Mobile have teamed up to give away a hockey home gating party. Text the word Preds to 615-737-1025. That's Preds to 615-737-1025. Now to enter for a chance to win a Dos Equis prize pack, which includes a case of beer, dessert from Nothing But Cakes, a T-Mobile prize pack, and food provided by 312 Pizza Company in Germantown. You must be 21 or older to enter. We'll be right back with Hal Gill right here on Robby and Rexrode, ESPN 102.5 The Game. Hey, football fans, the 2021 draft is right around the corner coming up tonight, and FanDuel Sportsbook is hooking new users up with 20-1 odds on Trevor Lawrence to be drafted number 1. That is nuts. That means a $5 bet wins you $100 when you bet on the projected number 1 pick. It's the biggest lock of the draft. Put an extra $100 in your pocket just for betting it. To claim this exclusive offer, just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app and sign up using promo code ROB. You can also make a variety of different bets from top picks at each position to who you think your team will pick and many more. We've talked about Greg Newsome, maybe Elijah Moore on the table for the Titans as well. That's available to you on the FanDuel Sportsbook. So put on your GM hat and download the FanDuel Sportsbook app to lock in your picks today. Remember to sign up using promo code ROB to claim your exclusive 20-1 odds on Trevor Lawrence to be drafted number 1. You must be 21 or older and present in Tennessee. New users only, must wager in designated offer market. A $10 first deposit required. A max bet of $5. Restrictions apply. See full terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Got a gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line at 1-800-889-9789. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Thursday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. Streaming live on Periscope, on YouTube, and on Twitch as well. Scheduled to be joined shortly by Hal Gill, Predators radio analyst. So looking forward to that conversation coming up here in just a few minutes. We did have Predators assistant coach Todd Richards on the show with us earlier. Had some interesting comments about Philip Forsberg. Now, we don't know whether or not he's going to play on Saturday. Todd Richards saying, yep, hope he plays, but don't know what's going to happen on that front at this point. But it does sound like Forsberg is getting close, and I'm not reporting anything here. But my gut feeling tells me if he is close, Forsberg probably going to want to give it to go on Saturday in a big game coming up for the Preds against Dallas.
Game of the year. I would think so, too. If you're an assistant coach and you go on a radio interview – and they try to bait you into giving injury news, are you then angry when you hang up the phone?
Maybe he's angry at you.
He could be. I'm sorry, Todd. I had to try, man.
Look,
I had to try.
He's handled it really well.
He did.
He says, look, I don't think there's anything wrong with saying, I hope Forsberg plays Saturday. Don't know whether or not he's going to. We feel like he's getting closer.
I forgot to ask him about Fabro and Carrier.
Yeah, you could have just gone the whole thing.
We got asked, by the way, on Twitter about Fabro. I get all the timelines mixed up.
I don't know that I've even heard a specific timeline on Fabro. I'd have to look. There's a lot to keep up with. I'd have to go back and look.
What about Carrier?
Carrier was 3 to 5 weeks, and that feels like that was about 4 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit longer.
So Fabro may be more long-term?
I don't know.
Because Olivier is
There's a lot of injuries to keep up with.
Yeah, yeah. But I would agree with you that Forsberg, I'm sure, and Todd kind of made it sound like, he's getting close, skating and all that stuff. I mean, last week, David Poyle kind of made it sound like he's getting closer, but I'm sure he will be pushing and campaigning hard to be playing Saturday.
And the question is, is there any point where Tyler Seguin is going to come play for the Stars? Like, he's been skating for a couple weeks now. It feels like Saturday would be a pretty big deal to get Tyler Seguin back in there too. What if you had Seguin and Forsberg coming back the same day?
Bring it all back. Let's have the full, let's have the full Monty.
Yeah, could do that.
In hockey terms.
Yeah. I like that. Hopefully nobody has any skiatika to deal with on Saturday in the game. Look, this is a massive game for the Predators. I think it was interesting to get Duchesne's perspective on it yesterday and also Todd Richards as well. Like, yeah, I mean, things didn't go well Tuesday, and Todd Richards talked about, you played a lot of games as of late. You actually get a chance to practice tomorrow, which maybe doesn't sound like that big a deal. They hadn't done a whole lot of practicing yet this year. I think, it kind of feels like, based on what Todd Richards says, I mean, they didn't do anything yesterday. Doesn't sound like they're going to be on the ice today either. I think that's probably the right call by John Hines. Just get as much rest as you can. Get back on the ice tomorrow, sharpen some things up, and be ready to go for the game on Saturday. But I think 2 days in a row of just staying off the ice, probably a pretty good idea for the Predators.
Yeah, and I reject, fatigue and this crazy schedule as an excuse for like what happened Tuesday.
Yeah.
Again, Florida was on a back-to-back. They've all been dealing with basically the same schedule. But I do think it's cause to be a little bit optimistic about what that could mean for the Preds Saturday. Because they have this time, just get away, unplug mentally and physically, get rest. 3-day rest is a big deal. The Stars tonight are playing Tampa Bay. They've got a massive game before the massive game Saturday with Tampa Bay to try to keep pace, to try to actually draw even with a game in hand if they win tonight. But the Preds should benefit from this break in the schedule, and they certainly needed it.
They did need it, and to your point, the Stars taking on Tampa Bay tonight on the road. That game starting at 6 o'clock tonight. So put on your Tampa Bay Lightning jerseys if you're a Nashville Predators fan. It's interesting. Now every game from here on out for the Stars for the regular season will be on the road. So their road trip begins tonight, and that's one of 7 that they've got coming up. Starting in Tampa, then the huge game here on Saturday, taking on Florida next Monday, and then 2 more against Tampa Bay coming up after that. So this is a rough stretch for the Dallas Stars, and you're hoping that after Carolina took care of business the other night and pretty well handled the Stars 5-1, that Tampa Bay could follow suit. And the good news, if you're a Predators fan, Tampa Bay still got a lot to play for. I am covering a Florida Panthers and Chicago Blackhawks game tonight for NHL.com, which I'm just thrilled about. Let me
Boom,
tell you
baby.
that. Really looking forward to that game. And, look, Florida, they just hung up 7 on the Predators. if that Florida team plays the way they played the other night, they might score 15 goals against Chicago. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what Florida looks like tonight, but they're right there 2 points behind Carolina in this race for the top spot in the division. Tampa Bay technically in third right now with 68 points, so the Lightning still have a lot to play for. That's very good news if you're a Predators fan.
Yes, no doubt. And Tampa Bay and Carolina both still have 7 games left. Now, they both have 2 games at hand on Florida.
Yep.
But Tampa Bay, 3 points back, same number of games played. So it's going deep. And look, if you're like Florida, after playing Nashville the other night, what would you rather do? Would you rather play Nashville in the first round, or would you rather play Carolina or Tampa Bay? And there is a real strong reason to be fighting for the 1 seed. And somehow, if you're the Preds, you hope that it's a battle, and then Carolina prevails right before they come to town next weekend.
Yeah, I mean, this is really interesting. I mean, that 2-3 is going to be an absolute war in the first round of the playoffs. Whether it's Florida, Tampa Bay, or if Carolina slides down and it's Carolina, Florida, it's going to be really interesting. So to your point, as good as the Predators have been as of late and the run that they've been on, the Stars as well, I think there's a pretty massive difference if you're a Carolina or a Tampa Bay or a Florida and taking on one of those top 3 teams in the first round and your path to a cup rather than taking on, the Predators. You got to play what's in front of you at some point anyway, but it's probably a little bit easier on the body, a little bit easier on the schedule if you're going through, not having to go through, Tampa Bay taking on Florida in the first round, then taking on Carolina in the second round.
No doubt.
That's a tall task.
Speaking of that, the Colorado-Minnesota first-round series. How about that one this year? I mean, the West is just Vegas has just gone nuts. But my gosh, all those teams.
I watched some of that Vegas-Colorado game last night. I mean, you're talking about 2 absolute titans out there playing. I mean, Vegas scored 10 seconds in the game. It was unbelievable. They've won 10 games in a row now. They're clicking on all cylinders. You've got 2 goaltenders there that you feel great about. Colorado's lost 3 in a row, but I mean, this time last week they had won 12 out of the last 13 or whatever it was. So 2 pretty high level teams in Vegas. We spend so much time talking about, Florida and Tampa Bay and Carolina. I think the 2 best teams in the NHL may be Vegas and Colorado.
And you watch the teams like that play, and of course there are. I mean, the teams in the Central are really good, but that's what the Preds, have to get through to get where they want it. That, you have to still compare the Preds to that and say, how close are they to that level right now?
Have you spent much time this year watching the Minnesotas and the St. Louises and the Colorados of the world? I'm a big hockey guy, obviously, so I watch them some, but I haven't watched a ton of Vegas and Colorado this year. I'm just watching a bunch of Central Division games. I watched that Vegas-Colorado game last night. My goodness, are they good. All of them. Minnesota's good.
Minnesota is probably better than people expect. They could give Vegas or Colorado a run for their money in the first round.
Dean Evison, he's done a heck of a job there. Former coach of the Milwaukee Admirals, now the head coach in Minnesota. He's doing a heck of a job with the Wild in his first year.
Yeah, they got to be. Where are they on the list of surprises in the league this year?
They're near the top. I mean, they're third comfortably in that division right now, and that's surprising to me.
That series.
They did blow a game last night to St. Louis and lost that one 4-3 when they were up 3-1. But by and large, they've been pretty good this year. A lot of former Predators on that team too.
I mean, Florida's probably Florida's probably a bigger surprise than Minnesota. Yeah. Just because
I would say so.
There was a lot of question about Florida going into the year, where Minnesota, you thought maybe they were a playoff team in that division that is pretty weak. It's very top heavy. So, but yeah, Minnesota
is top 2, right?
Awesome. Yeah.
Top.
Coming up next, we'll get back into our poll question of the day at 1025 The Game on Twitter. But right now, we've got a pair of Nashville SC tickets to give away coming up for their game on Sunday against Miami. Be caller 5 at 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025 on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Caller 5 will win tickets to see Nashville SC take on Inter Miami coming up on Sunday at Nissan Stadium. Do that now. We'll be right back on Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 1025 The Game. Welcome back in. Final segment of the day here on Robby and Rexrode, ESPN 102.5 The Game, streaming live on Periscope, on YouTube, and on Twitch as well. Joe, let's revisit our poll question of the day at 102.5 The Game on Twitter. Titans fans, of these positions of need, which one could you live without being addressed in the first 2 rounds of the NFL draft? Cornerback, pass rush, or wide receiver? 43% say pass rush, 41% say wide receiver, 16% say cornerback. So this poll question suggesting that of these positions of need, pass rush is the position where Titans fans could live without it the most being selected in the first couple of rounds. What do you think of that? And are you comfortable enough with the additions of Danico Autry and Bud Dupree that you're that willing to not address it in the first couple of rounds?
Jeremy K. Gover disagrees. Now, wait a minute. Well, we're just talking first round, right?
No, 2 rounds. First 2 rounds of the NFL draft.
First 2 rounds.
Yeah.
God, see, I can't. I think the entire show I've had the poll question wrong in my head. First 2 rounds.
First 2 rounds.
Yeah. I mean, look, you could get an okay player in the 3rd round at the edge, but when you look at the edge group, man.
I feel a lot better about getting a pretty good receiver in the 3rd round than I do a good edge rusher.
Yes, I definitely agree with that. Definitely agree with that. I mean, corner, it's not as deep as receiver. It's deeper than edge.
Yeah.
If you go by what we believe to be the quality of the players based on the evaluations, based on a lot of information, a lot of work, the edge players, like if you can get one, if you're just going to have 22 and 53, I think it'd be a good idea for one of them to be an edge player.
Yeah, I think so too. And also, I mean, I think most people, and I'm kind of surprised that corner is so low here. I mean, you look at the results of the poll question, only 16% saying, yeah, corner is a position I could live without in the first couple of rounds. Like, I get it. I would probably rank cornerback 2nd on that list. But like, I think there's a good chance. Like, if you get Elijah Moore in the 1st round, I think there's a good chance you're not taking a corner until the 3rd round because you got to get the edge at some point. Like, I think that absolutely could happen where if it plays out the way that some mock drafts have gone and Elijah Moore's who you end up with, I think there's a really good shot at that point you're not getting a corner until the 3rd round.
I agree. Now, what if you have the same 4 picks that they have right now and you go receiver, corner, tight end, offensive tackle, and don't address the edge in the first 4. I mean, offensive tackle in the 1st round, obviously we know. Everybody upset about that. But even if the offensive tackle is addressed in the top 100,
right?
I think you make a strong case to do it.
I think you could too. And look, I mean, you still can. I mean, tight end, you got to factor that in too. Got a tight end you're going to need at some point in the draft. Like, there's a lot of different ways the top 100 could go. That's why if you can trade back and get an extra pick in the top 100, I think you got to really pull the trigger on that if you're the Titans. Now, maybe you can't. I don't know what the compensation would be. Like, if somebody's trying to move, if the Saints are trying to move up from 28 to 22, what are you getting back? Is it going to be a 3rd rounder? Could you get a 2nd rounder back for that? I don't know. I mean, that's going to be interesting to see what would happen there. But if all things are equal, and unless you just absolutely love somebody that's there for you at 22, if I'm John Robinson, I'm doing everything I can do to trade back.
Right. Now, that's the thing. That's always the caveat. Unless there's someone you're like, no way, I got to get this guy and we can get him here. Or, gosh, I might need to move ahead of the Colts to get this guy that we absolutely have to have. I mean, I don't think that's an ideal scenario because the Titans need quantity and quality out of this draft, but you got to go with your convictions too and who you really believe is going to make a difference for your team. Ben on the text line asked, Joe, if you had to bet your house, who would the Titans pick tonight? Like, if I had to bet my house, for one thing, I would probably bet it wouldn't go the way our mock went. I still think Azeez Ojulari will be gone.
Okay.
So if I'm betting, if you're betting who you think they will pick, who will be available and who they will pick, who would you bet?
I would probably say Greg Newsome, but I don't feel great about it. I think if I had to bet and it had to be I was betting my house, I'd probably say Greg Newsome.
I'd be close on that too. I think I'd probably go Elijah Moore.
Okay.
But I'm right with you on Greg Newsome. And you, sir?
That's tough.
Like, you got to bet your house on this. On who the Titans, how you think it's going to fall, and who you think they're going to take.
I hate saying Caleb Farley.
But you do.
But Caleb Farley.
Caleb Farley.
Okay. So we all have 3 different answers, which is interesting.
And that Todd McShay's...
Not good news for 2 of our houses, at least.
And that Todd McShay's mock draft is probably the most likely scenario where they do trade back later in the first round, and they could maybe still get Farley.
Yeah.
But I agree with you, Robbie. If you get an attractive trade offer to trade back 5 to 10 picks, do it.
Yeah.
Do it. Get that extra pick in the top 100 or even 120. And, that would give you 5 picks in the top 100 to 120 where you can address edge, receiver, corner, tight end, tackle.
Yep.
Or could be 2 of
Could be 2 of 1.
2
yeah.
a receiver, 2 a corner, but yeah.
Let's go back to the text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. CD text in, is there someone that the Titans would trade up just to stop the Colts from drafting? You trading up to like 20 to take something away from the Colts? Maybe.
Let me think of
Maybe you love Kwity Paye.
What would be a Colts need that isn't a Titans need? Is there really one? Because obviously that would be hilarious because then you're not even really helping yourself.
Yeah.
Well, look, yeah.
Colts need a safety? I don't know.
I mean, they both certainly can use help up front. They both can use a corner.
Receiver?
They both can use a receiver. So that's possible. I mean,
in McShay's mock draft, he's got the Colts taking Elijah Moore.
Yeah. So if you're the Titans, if you're the Titans and you think they're going to do that and that's your guy,
go up there and
move
get
up.
Him. Yeah.
It's just at some point you'd like to see John Robinson return to the 2016 move down and get more picks. He hasn't had a massive pick draft in a long time.
I'm excited. I'm just glad it's finally here. NFL mock drafts are over. The NFL actual draft taking place tonight. It's going to be an interesting show tomorrow. I'm fascinated to see what the Titans do here. And, man, if they end up getting an offensive tackle in the first round, this is going to be a spicy show in the morning, man. I can tell you.
What if they trade out of the first round?
What if they do?
Well, then it would.
There'll be no player to speak of.
Yeah.
But it would be good for them.
We could go back to mock drafts.
That's right. We can just mock the second tomorrow.
We could do that.
Maybe so. Maybe that'll end up happening.
If they take a tackle in the first round, I may not show up tomorrow.
Yeah. I think that reaction probably will be a popular one among Titans fans.
But you know what? If you think Tevin Jenkins is going to be the next star tackle in this league and you can't believe he's there at 22,
hey,
you go with your vertical board.
That's right. That does it for us today here on Robby and Rexrode. We'll be back tomorrow to break down the NFL draft and the first round. Darren Donick and Chase is coming up next. This is ESPN 102.5 The Game.